TheSeahawksNest stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and you know I appreciate you watching. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week, and how could you not? Your Seattle Seahawks are looking very good here to start out preseason. I think we saw one of our better overall preseason games we've probably seen in years here, and we've had some good preseason seasons. We've had coaches that understand that, hey, let's set the standard. Let's start putting this thing in place. Let's have these guys cooked up and trying to, look to win every game. We're not just going to try to turn it on in the regular season, but this was one that hit just a little bit different, didn't it? Just a tiny little bit. And it was one that you look back on and you just marvel at how well you were able to run the ball uniformly, basically throughout the game. Your offensive efficiency was right there. Your defense certainly wasn't perfect, but take away that punt return and the day looks even better on their part of it. And they were stout throughout. Didn't even really work a lot of the extra stuff that you're going to tend to get in Mike McDonald's scheme as far as that goes, as far as he only blitzed a couple of times. I'm going to show you guys a couple of the cuts he did, but this was one of the more infrequent games I've seen from the Hawks when it comes to blitzing. I think part of that was that the Chiefs were just so dedicated to just wanting to dink and dunk it that they Seahawks were like, what's the point of blitzing them? They're going to get the ball out of their hand anyway so bloody fast that it's just kind of pointless on that side of it. This is going to be the Seahawks Weekly Roundup, a show that we started last year and is going to typically land on a Wednesday when we get to the regular season. That's my damn shooting for with this show. And it's a day that we're going to be looking at kind of the prior week, a little bit of Seahawks news, if there's any news that's pertinent worth discussing that might have slipped between the cracks on things, and show you a little bit of some review from the prior game. Just look at a few things that maybe, again, kind of you get in the course of the season, you're going so fast and you can sometimes forget things or not have a chance to really take a look at some things a little bit closer that are important for your team and what's going on with them. So with that said, we'll get this started off as the cats are ready to go here on this front of it. No, you're not going to force her off. She's feisty today. Let's start this off, though, with a little bit of the news aspect of this. And there's not a lot of Seahawk news. The one thing I want to start off with that I haven't heard anybody really discuss, and it's going to be a bit of a random one before we get to kind of the main points that are out there, and that is that I think and believe at this point, Torrey Horton is going to make this team. This is one where he came into camp with not an outside looking in. He was going to be part of the mix of people that were going to try to make this go down. But, okay, come on, Kitty, come on. She's getting ready to attack the black one, I can tell. And so you weren't sure 100% if he was going to make the team. He's looked legitimate throughout training camp. He's been great in the scrimmage. He's looked good in the first preseason game with 3 catches there. But Mike McDonald gave you one of those rare moments where you can actually get an indicator of what you're going to feel for the roster coming up. And it's not going to be a surprise to anybody on you. But in the post-game press conference, he spoke to the fact that Torrey did have a little bit of an ankle thing that bit him in the game. But he also mentions that Torrey wanted to go back out into the game, wanted to go back out and play, and then they just decided to shut him down. So this may not seem like it's not even a big deal, but just again, and this is to me lock solid, this puts it in place. Torrey's making the team at this point, because if you have a guy that's on the bubble and that he's still got to earn his way, he's got to show us what do we really got. We need as many reps as we can from you to make this determination. If you've got that kind of guy, then you're not going to worry about if he's got a little bit of a tweaked ankle. You're like, well, whatever, if he gets more injured, we're potentially cutting him anyway. So what's the point? Get him out there and play. Let's see what he's got. And instead, you're kind of preserving him a little bit here. I think because the team knows what they've got in this kid, knows how good he is, knows that he is going to push for that third wide receiver role this season. And so they're going to be mightily careful with him. So I thought that was a little bit of just before we get to some of the news on this, I thought that was a little bit of an indicator that you can basically, I think, write it down at this point that Torrey is making this team. It's not a surprise with how good a camp he's had, with the talent we know he's got coming out of Colorado State. But nonetheless, Mike gave you a little bit of a view into that one. Let's get to 2 pieces of news here, and then we'll get to some of our little segments here on the show. And the first one is that we officially now, it's been wondered about if the Bengals were really going to be moving Trey Hendrickson. Word was at the time back in the draft that they were wanting way too much compensation for what you were going to have to give up to then pay this guy. And so there wasn't any deals to be had at that time. It's been quiet as far as are the Bengals really in favor of moving him? Do they want to try to come in with some negotiations at the 11th hour once they especially get the Shamar Stewart stuff wrangled out and finished out, which they finally got him back on the field? So now it's just, okay, Trey's kind of the last guy on this. But indeed, it does sound like now they are going to be moving him. There's an impasse there between him and the Bengals, and he's going to move out of town. So it has a lot of Hawk fans wondering about the potential of him being added here, if this is the way to go. I don't know if I can say that I have any real, even somewhat confidence the Seahawks are even kind of quasi in on this deal. I know John has said that he's in on every deal out there, even if he doesn't intend to jump on it. I think this is just one where you add it up from so many different angles of things, and you come to kind of just the conclusion of it just isn't quite the fit, especially with his age, especially. I think he's not quite. He's obviously, with Micah Parsons, different player, younger player, but it's also a bit with Micah and how you can use him as this real varied piece in your defense if that guy became available. I don't think it becomes just like, well, we just need a dynamic edge. Part of it is also that edge's fit to your roster. Now with Micah, there's maybe some questions at times with him on the power edge role he'd have to serve in this defense, and is that as much his game? That's a fair question to be asked. But when it does come to Trey Hendrickson, I just think with the age, he's a really good pass rusher, not denying that part of it. I wouldn't say he's a dominant run defender on that side too. There's some shades of that you get with Micah, but he is now there on the market at this point. This isn't, well, maybe it's going to happen. The Bengals are likely here to move him. To me, this feels like a deal where a team like the Patriots that are just sitting on an F ton of money right now. I mean, they've just got a pile of cash who probably could use some edge rushing help at this point. On top of that, they just strike me as the team that's going to jump into these waters and potentially bite, or a team like that that's not quite legitimate yet, but just has the money essentially and has a bit more of the need from the edge front to add a guy like this, where I don't think the Hawks have the need. It's more of if, hey, we really get into a young, dynamic guy that's really that difference maker, we'll listen, but not an older quasi difference maker for the position who's kind of a fit, but not necessarily the pure fit either on that whole power edge front of it as well. So something worth tracking and monitoring. He is out there. But I do not believe at all that Seattle's really in on this one. It just doesn't seem to me like one that they would go to, especially a guy who's got much cheaper on the open market, who you know is a more even pure fit probably to the defense. He's not the pass rusher Hendrickson is, but better run defender probably, and that's Jadeveon Clowney. So I just keep coming back around over and over when thinking about the Trey Hendrickson situation going, I just don't see how it can occur. I don't see how it's going to break down. And another piece of news that's come down the line that's maybe further pushed this along to where this isn't much going to be a possibility is that Uchenna Nwosu passed his physical, and he's going to start getting out there to get off the physically unable to perform list and get back out there and practice. It doesn't mean he's going to be ready game one, but it does mean that the team seems to have a little bit more confidence here in him coming along and getting better, and that he is going to be able to get back to hopefully the Uchenna we saw a couple of years ago, who was a very strong, good all-around edge, and who can definitely fit in this defense with doing a lot of the games that you want to run and spot drop in space. And he's got all that ability to do that type of stuff. So cool to see him coming off that list. We weren't sure about him, where that thing was. Was there kind of maybe a chronic thing? Was there something that was like maybe even a more major injury at play here from that Wyatt Teller hit back in the preseason that was still kind of lingering onwards? And so hopefully here, this is an indicator he's going to be out there sooner than later. You need these four edges for this thing, I think, to fully work, to get the rotations right, to not get guys stretched out too far to where they're tired. And again, maybe a little bit why you're not seeing them look to move and go after a guy like Clowney on this side of it. Okay, Kitty, come on. You can come here and sit in the lap, but let's keep it chill, okay? But that's about all we've got as far as news-wise for your Seattle Seahawks go, which is a good thing. You came out of the Kansas City Chiefs game, and there wasn't really any major injuries. This is a little bit, I will say, over about the next 5 days where I'm going to be really holding my breath, because you have not only the, of course, preseason game against the Packers, but then you also have the inter-squad game, whatever you want to call it, inter-squad practices against the Packers here in the week and leading up to the preseason game. And those can be pretty intense as well. And so you've gotten through a lot of this training camp with really only McIntosh, sad as it is, he's out for the year, your third running back in your rotation. And then you have Charles Cross coming back with the finger, which is not his major injury because he's going to have back by game one. So you've done a really good job as a staff here and as a team of seemingly having really intense practices, but being able to keep guys really still healthy throughout this training camp. But now we've got the final summit that we have to climb. And this is the one with the 90-degree angles. And you know, the last bit is going to be the hardest part of this to get through, to get to that opening season where hopefully you can be 100% healthy. as there are already teams out there we're seeing that are, having some struggles with sustaining here even into the preseason, and that they're dealing with their share of injuries on a couple of different fronts. All right, let's get to some of our segments here, and this little roundup's kind of built upon. It's just a few of these different variety of segments that we kind of look at, just kind of, again, trying to get some different alt angles here of the team, if you were. And the first one up is going to be our PFF grades of the week. Someone asked me once why I chose the Bomber for that, because Bombers are cool. I don't care. All right, let's look at the PFF scores, shall we here? Your Seattle Seahawks offensively had such a thing of beauty at the top of these scores. Just take a look at it, folks. Just drink it up. Drink it up. Anthony Bradford, 92.9 PFF grade. Jalen Sundle, your center at number 2 with a 92.4. Yes, folks, you heard that right. I ain't BSing you. Your top 2 highest rated offensive PFF players were offensive linemen. Yeah, I don't think we've seen that in quite a bit of time. It's been a while, regular season, preseason. I don't know when we last saw that. And it just gets more beautiful the deeper you go. Because you got Derek Young in at number 3. Makes sense. Had a great game. Then we got Robbie Oots in there at number 4 with 85.9. And then we got Abraham Lucas there at 82.4. And Gray Zabel there at 78.7. Remembering about a 65 is your about average grade when it comes to both sides of the ball, with how a player performs overall. So look at this here. You've got, of your top 6, 4 were offensive linemen as your highest rated offensive players in this game. And the other guy in that 6 was your fullback. Very, very, very good indicator here. All those guys, of course, to the starters essentially on the day. But they took it to that Chiefs offensive line. They dominated them. I mean, that's what these scores partly tell you. The tape definitely matches this out. We've got to give big props out there to Bradford and Sundle here. 2 guys that you're hoping can kind of start to turn in some of these performances. Sundle in particular with his mobility, which I will show you in a couple of the cut-ups I'm going to present, was certainly very impressive in what he brought to play in the game from that standpoint. He was hitting blocks out in space, hitting them right, hitting them true, getting movement at the point of attack. And Bradford was doing Bradford things out there. Big, long, strong. It's like a big old grizzly out there. And if he can put it to use, if he can put it to work, and I'll tell you what, once again here, we got another player that I was listening to in an interview yesterday talking about the fact that Bradford can be as, I think it was Lucas. Lucas, another guy. It's like when 3 or 4 people say the same thing, it does confirm a little bit of the suspicions here, just being that this guy's got everything physically you could need to go out there and be great in this league. I mean, so many players have talked about this like this on this team in just this offseason, that he can go out there and give this to you. It's just, does he want it? And they all say that very same thing in conjunction with it. It's just a matter of if he wants it. It's a matter of if he wants to get after it in that. And this seems to be where maybe we are finally starting to see the light bulb turn on, and a guy that's been in the league for a couple of years, entered the league as a really young guy who's maybe starting to kind of get it and understand, what's going on and how to go about his business in the right fashion of things. A couple things I would have you just take note of here on the rest of these PFF scores as we go down the line of them just a little bit. With Damian Martinez with a nice little bounce back game matched to what we saw from the eyes on him, which was cool to see, all around well, or at least decently graded in every capacity of his game. Do take note as well, though, of Elijah Araujo. Okay, so with Elijah, the thing to consider with him, and partly why he's not going to be your number 1 tight end, partly why, sorry, I got my guy calling me here one sec. So the thing to consider with Arroyo is that he came out as a guy who's very dynamic as a pass catcher, very dynamic in what he can give you as a route runner, big, it can move much faster than a guy usually at this size, weight. But the part that you're going to worry a little bit about, the part that's going to be a bit of a work in progress as we go along, a little bit of kind of like the shades of Jimmy Graham at times. He's not as bad as Jimmy. He's much more willing to get after it. I don't think he's as soft as kind of Graham could be at times as a blocker. But you can see over there on the far right-hand column there for Elijah Arroyo, though well graded overall in the day at 67.3, the 49.9 grade is a little bit of a representation of some of the struggles you get with him as a run blocker. And these are grades that were also matched up last week with Elijah and how he played in addition to that. So I think that this is a bit of what you're going to get part and parcel with him when he's out there. Does it sometimes maybe cost him reps on the field versus a guy like a Saubert, who is a little bit better as a run blocker? See down Saubert, even though he's lesser graded, not the pass catcher Arroyo is. He's an inline guy, and he blocks better overall on that side. So that'll be an interesting kind of tug of war between those two as to who can get kind of more reps. Certainly if Elijah can play a little bit more to the outside at times, that's definitely going to help this out a bit too as well. As far as some of the bottom guys, I don't think you worry as much about the lesser scores here. Luke Felix Fualoa, I mean, he's not going to make the roster, not on the practice squad. Nick Callerup, not going to be on the roster, not the practice squad. Anthony Tyus, he's like your 7th running back. Not going to be on the roster, not going to be on the practice squad. Federico, the center in here, hasn't played bad, but again, not 54 grade, not a horrible grade, but also just not even going to be probably on the practice squad. Maybe because they might need a third center, but that's the only reason why at this point. I think Tyrone Bowden, didn't have as strong a performance there from Tyrone, and unfortunately I'm going to have to show a cut of him in our Come On Man segment, as he was our Come On Man guy of the week. It's like, dude, you got to put better effort than that when you're trying to make the team. Christian Haynes got dinged in this game, and I was thinking about showing some more cut-ups from this. I think that the PFF score, this is the one score of the game I looked at and said, you guys are being a little bit hard on the kid, in my opinion. When I went back and watched the tape on Christian Haynes, I saw him playing right guard and playing right guard well. And not just like at times, but there were some consistent reps, play after play, where he was after it doing good work. So the 55.4 grade to me was not a representation of Haynes performing substandard. I thought he was actually pretty solid in this game and how he played. Certainly on certain reps, much more of an improvement from what we saw from him last year. But to me, not all grades on PFF are going to be great. Mason Richmond also played pretty well there for your Seattle Seahawks. He wasn't badly graded there as your left tackle, coming in with a 61 grade. He's a guy who's acquainted himself well in this team kind of early on, which has been cool to see. Another guy we've been kind of dragging cable, do 57.1, had a little bit of an arm issue, but he laid a couple of nice blocks out there as well. Defensively speaking, your Seattle Seahawks were led through by Jarek Reed. Jarek Reed in a fight here to try to make this roster spot. He can play both free safety and strong safety, which is going to help him. 90.9 grade in this game. A guy in his rookie year really flashed, but then had the torn ACL. And so last year, I don't know if he came all the way back from that. It took him a while to come all the way back just to get on the field. I don't know if he's 100% when he did. Did only play 14 total snaps. So telling that maybe the team didn't play him as much, but maybe a guy that's going to earn some more reps here in this third preseason game on the back of this solid performance. Kobe Bryant, Boye Mafe, played 10 snaps, but well graded in the 10 snaps that they played. Brandon Peely, a nose tackle who had the safety in this game, also played a good all-around game, though again, only 13 snaps from him as well. So not a lot of reps on these guys with it. This is also, though, what you're going to get when you get an offense that's running the ball 50 times over the course of the game, is you're controlling the clock, you're controlling the ball, and your defense isn't out on the field. And so you get a fresher defense over the course of a season. And then you also look at the reps after the game, and boy, I'm sure many of you are like, wow, because we've watched some reps after the game in for some of these guys in recent years where it's like damn near 70 reps they've had to run over the course of the whole game. But everybody else is solidly graded from there. Everybody's kind of in that low 70s to lower down 60 period. Jared Ivey, who was your highest graded guy last week, came back with a 71 grade. So at least another solid performance from him and in what he brought to play on that side of it. But basically everybody's kind of in an average sort of graded area of things aside from the lower end guys, who we will discuss a little bit about. Emma Wari didn't have as strong a game, and 13 reps there for him, 44.7 grade by their outlook of it. Taya Kata, a guy might lose some reps this next week to that Jarek Reed, also 49.5, not the best. Surprised to see Mike Morris's grade at 51.2. I thought that he had another active game. I thought he had some pressures. I thought he was around the ball in the run game. Guys, interesting preseason. Hard to find the fit exactly for him on the active roster as I look at it. But a guy that I know has made some noise and done what he can to try to, drive that forward to make that happen. I think they've got some tough decisions on this team come cut down day, and that's just going to be probably another one of them. Again, here are not many notable things to take away from the grades on this defensively. You really had so many of the snaps cut up between like 10 snaps per guy. it's a little bit harder on some of these reps. And then the guys that ate a lot of reps, Tayakata or Connor O'Toole, you're not really, again, like Quinn Bohanna, none of these guys are going to necessarily make the roster. So it's not that worrisome. And then you're just not that much to take away from it. As far as your best special teamers, Anthony Bell, you want to beat out Jarek Reed and make this team, well, then you're probably going to need to play great special teams to do it. Unfortunately for you, Jarek Reed was the number 2 special teams guy and how he was graded. So he's also well-suited to play special teams. And remember with Jarek Reed, I believe he was 2nd or 3rd in the NFL when he went down with that ACL, that torn ACL a couple of years ago, in special teams tackles in the NFL at the time. So a guy that also does play really good special teams. Derek Young is another guy who he's trying. Marquez Valdez-Scantling's got to be worried here because you have Bobo's doing Bobo things. Torrey Horton is being that dark horse coming up out of nowhere. And Derek Young's been in this program for a couple of years. He looks like he's cut out of freaking concrete. The guy absolutely is a demon on special teams. He can be a kick returner for you. And he showed you he's more than a competent receiver as well in this football game. If I'm Marquez, man, I'm not sleeping well at night right now with the way that this is set up with the receiving crew for the Seahawks. I don't know if they're going to cut him, but another one of those just very tough decisions made all the harder by a guy like Derek Young, who's doing a great job of realizing this is an opportunity here for me to jump forward and grab this right now. Then I can take advantage. I've been in this system for, or at least in this program and in this with this team for a couple of years now. I can go out there and make this noise. I'm ready to take advantage of this opportunity. He's got a lot of physical ability. He's legit fast. He's legit strong. He's legit good with the ball in his hands, something this offense likes a lot. If we get down to cut down day and Marquez doesn't make it and they keep a Derek Young, I think a lot of people are going to be shocked out there, but I can't say that I'm necessarily going to be one of them. I can't say that. Just make sure I'm getting a couple of these donations because I don't want to get too far back on that. Phoebe Moore Seahawks, thank you for the $2 donation. I appreciate you for that, Phoebe. That preseason game is getting us national buzz. Yeah, you didn't just do it to just anybody. This isn't you taking advantage of a team that's just completely checked out in their process and who they are. Andy Reid, as I was saying before the game with it, why I made it a big test is Andy Reid gets his teams to play. Those teams year in and year out, Eagles, Chiefs, they're not slow starters. Those are teams that are known for running very vigorous training camps and that there's a definite, we're going to go out here and we're going to do this right and we're going to make sure we're preparing ourselves right to be ready game 1 so that we're at our best. So you weren't going to get necessarily just light effort from the Chiefs. Now they're playing on the road. It's, 3 weeks into training camp, the doldrums, so to speak. You see a team like the Buffalo Bills, who are a very good team, get the brakes beat off of them yesterday. And you go, yeah, there are times the teams just don't kind of show up. But I didn't feel like it wasn't that the Chiefs didn't try to show up. It's just that, we were taking it to them. We've got an energy to us and a purposefulness to us in what we're doing. And it's going to carry over to the regular season. Does it mean that we come dominant and that's who we are? No, but it is that this stuff will carry over to the regular season at least somewhat. You're not going to go from this right back to backtracking to what you were last year. Maybe it's a somewhere in the middle thing, or it gets better as the year goes along thing, but it's a thing that is going to be part of the identity of this team. And we already know what the defense will be, but I'm speaking really specifically to the offense and the way that it's running and Kubiak's play calling. That stuff's going to work. It's absolutely going to work. And you're right. We're finally getting a little love from the national perspective here, Phoebe. They're finally starting to catch on. Martin Lawrence, thank you for 7 months as a Hawks Nest member. I appreciate that. And both of you feed me being members and donators as well. Really, really kind of you. Can't wait to see this team in competitive games. I mean, opening week as it can't come fast enough from Mars, my perspective goes. I've got a bet on the line here with Jesse that I'm a little nervous about, but I do feel good about where we're at. I feel good about where we're going to be running into the opponent, but this is a season I'm just really looking forward to. Team's done so many things smartly and right. It's been developing and just putting this thing together correctly and slowly and properly, not trying to microwave anything or short step stuff. And you just feel like it's going to pay off for them. You really do. Don't know if it will be this year, but it just feels like it is a matter of time that the payoff is coming. Thomas Cox, thanks for the $5 donation. I really appreciate that. Says Grant Cohn and Jesse are showing fear after what they saw on Friday. We're going to be doing a segment here in a second, taking a little bit of look at tracking the NFC West. Thomas, to your point on that, and the Rams have been okay in preseason. They're 2-0, and they've got some things to feel good about, especially from some of the ancillary players at the edges of their roster. Stenson Bennett playing better football over there, but there's also with them the dark shadow of Stafford in the back and what's going on there. But yeah, the Niners have had some difficulties here in their training camp. The Juwan Jennings situation still remains. He's not practicing. And they maintain that it's legit, the calf. He's not sitting in house, but he's sitting in, he's holding in. That's what that really is. And they know. Jesse knows. Jesse understood with McDonald. Jake understood this as well. Those guys know how smart Mike McDonald is. And now if you compare the offense up with what he's doing and find footing with that, they know that this is a very talented roster that's getting ready to cook, that's getting ready to bloom. And I would imagine it would make them nervous. That they're seeing it. They're seeing it right. They're seeing things that were deficiencies within this team for years that the Niners were able to take advantage of, especially the schematics. That stuff's gone, brothers. You don't get that no more. Your free pass has been revoked. What you going to do now? Where are you going to run now? So they should be nervous. They should be. Martin Lawrence, thank you for another $5 donation. Martin, appreciate you for that. Only got to see highlights, but I thought Charbonnet looked like running back 1. Also thought Sundell looked good. I'm sticking with my opinion. He's our center week 1. Well, I think you've got a good argument on, especially on the second part to this with Sundell, in that if he's going to look that good in what he can do, especially in the run game, and especially with the movement and mobility stuff, because that is stuff that Oluwatimi doesn't do quite as well. He's not going to have that juice necessarily to get out there in front in that way like this guy can. He can't pull out in front like this guy can. Not to the degree he can, at least. This guy's just way better at that. Now with Oluwatimi, better pass blocker, potentially. So the give and the take, which one do you want to go away from? But then you come back to say, well, but with Sundell, so much is going to be set off the play action and plays that are going to kind of put him in a better position to be successful in the pass blocking rep versus if you were just straight dropping back without any sort of play action, or you're in shotgun just throwing it, or then he looks worse in those kind of situations. Another tough kind of call as to which way to go on that one, Martin, I think from the coaching's perspective, especially with Sundell looking so good last week. I'll be showing you on a couple of the cut-ups, and that there's a couple of offensive linemen that look good. It wasn't just one guy ragdolling a dude at the line of scrimmage. It was that you had a variety of offensive linemen doing their job on the play and doing it damn well. As far as Charbonnet as running back 1, let me attack this from this standpoint, Martin, and saying, let's remove the injury aspect of it. If the injury part is the stuff that keeps kind of cooking along, if Walker's foot's just in a constant state of soreness, if he just can't get to the availability point, I see the coaching staff eventually just kind of throw their arms up and be like, all right, Charbonnet's our 1, and we'll work you in when you're able to be worked in. I could see that happening. If we push out just for a second, though, the injury side of it and say, okay, by game 1, he is realistically healthy. He's able to get us 15 games as a starting running back. I do believe that as good as Charbonnet's looked, and I think he's looked at his best, Martin, I do. It's as much the faith I have in Kenneth Walker that if he is healthy in this offense, those runs that go for 20 yards here from a Hololani or from a Charbonnet are going to go for like 50, 60 with Walker, where he'll have that just little bit of extra booster to get him through that open hole that's existing there. And you give him that big of a hole, because that's something we've not given Walker. These holes I'm going to show you on some of these cut-ups from the All-22 from behind, where you're seeing these things just open up like the Red Sea. Walker's not had that. That's not been ever a part of what he's been handed. And if you give him that, he is going to destroy defenses with it. It's just really the health thing for me with it. But the true benefit on all this to me, Martin, is that you have 2 guys that are capable of being difference makers at the running back position for whatever that can give you in the modern NFL. The analytic people say, well, it's the line, it's the system, it's what you have as far as other weapons, it's how you play defense. There's all these other parts that sort of dictate the running back success past talent. But I still do think that there's room there for talent to be a separating factor and to allow you to be just that much better. And both of these guys are those kind of guys. They're not just jags for the position, but guys that can be real sparkling spots on this offense. Like things that you point to that you go, defenses have to prepare for how to deal with that. And then the fact you've got the 2-headed monster, you can keep them fresh. I think there's just room here at the end of the day, too, Martin, for 2 backs to get touches over the course of the season between injuries and wear and tear and the 17-game season, I think that you end up with both of them right around 200 touches for the year when it's all said and done. Just can they then be maximally effective off the back of those touches? That'd be my wonder. That would be my wonder. Snail, thank you for 29 months as a Hawks Nest member, Snail. I really appreciate you for that. He says, we have Cup as a vet presence. We don't need Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Yeah, I just don't know where his pathway is at this point, to your point on that, Snail. The speed aspect and his familiarity with the Kubiak offense are the two inroads to allow him to make the roster. But if Horton's got the speed that matches MVS and they like Horton's overall game, especially with the yak elements that he brings into play, if they like with Jake Bobo that he's just a good all-around receiver, play inside, can play outside, but then he also has maybe as good a blocking ability as any receiver that you got on the roster outside of maybe Cup, or maybe even better than Cup. Maybe that overrides that. And then you come back to Tariq Young with the special teams aspect, because as nice as it is to have Marquez's speed and familiarity with Kubiak's scheme, I don't think he's going to play special teams or play it particularly well if he has to do it. Whereas I know Tariq can do it. And I just think I come back to that going, I don't know if there's really that path there on this one necessarily for him. But it's a tough decision. Not easy for the coaches on that one. Can't deny that part of it either. I would not want to have to make that selection. But if I was, and I was driven to have to make that pick at this point, I think I probably would lean on to keeping Cup, Bobo, or keeping Bobo, Horton, and probably Tariq Young. Especially considering how our special teams unit looked on the kick coverage unit. You want to put a Marquez Valdes-Scantling out there and have him go up there and try to tackle somebody down the field and watch the opposition constantly putting the ball at the 40-yard line on kickoff returns? I don't. Let's get the best guys out there that can possibly defend this thing and make sure that we're making that a strength that it needs to be for this whole team to work. It all works together when everything's got a certain level of strength to it. The defense can dominate. The special teams can be close to dominating, if not doing that. And the offense can be just merely even average to good, and you could be a great team. But special teams has got to do its all-around part on that, and that includes defending punts and defending kicks. Jay. All right, let's move on here to our next segment here, and this one's going to be a little bit of the inroad towards some of the film study I want to do here, and we're going to be looking at the underrated hero of the week. And I don't know if he's underrated on this because people are definitely talking about him. I can't deny that. But I think that he is a guy that we've got to just discuss a little bit more on this. We've got to give this guy a little bit more of the credence on this, of not just merely saying, whoa, what's going on there? What just happened there? Let's get that turned down, and all right. But I want to talk about Gray Zabel. That's who I want to speak about here. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait. Sorry, guys. It's my bad. Had this set, and then it's messed up on me, so yeah. All right, that'll do. This will do for now. Sometimes live shows, you know what I mean? Sometimes the live shows. There we go. There we go. So the guy I want to talk about is Gray Zabel, and the thing I want you guys to notice on, we're going to talk about a couple of elements with this because I kind of geek out on this stuff, and I know you guys have seen tons of cut-ups of this, so I'll spin through these because I know many of you have already watched many of these many times. But let's just take note again of how good our left guard, our rookie first-round pick left guard, is playing instantaneously. And the fact that these runs over and over again are going behind that left side, that they're choosing to attack him, and Josh Jones doing a good job here too as well. But, I mean, right out the first gate here with this rep, you get Zabel, hands inside, locked up, right where they're supposed to be. There's no holding there. That's right where you need, just in controlling the man the whole way. Look, get some movement. I move you this way. Don't need a lot of movement on it, just moves enough. Moves you that way. Bradford just knocking 2 to 1. Look at Bradford here, getting 2 for 1 here. with 48 and 99. I mean, he's just moving 99. That's Bradford just taking a man and just, you're going this way, washing him all the way out. Then you get Abraham Lucas. Look at Lucas, 72 on this side. Look what he does to Karlaftis. Same thing Bradford's doing. 2 washout blocks. Then you get Sundel getting down to the second level and hitting up and climbing up on 43, the linebacker, and landing the block perfect. Look at Sundel there, center. Boom, boom, right on 43, cleared. So you've got Lucas, Bradford, Sundel just washing this whole play out. But all started out by Zabel controlling his man, not allowing penetration, getting just a little bit of movement on his side. Cup down there as well. If Cup hits this block, I don't think Cup's anticipating freedom. If Cup hits that block, man, this thing might keep going. If he can just pin that with his pin the inside shoulder there. But I don't think Cup knew that thing was coming that way. So right out the gate, you're like, okay, this is looking good. Another run here. Over Gray Zabel's side. Zach Charbonnet. Zabel comes down, hits a reach block, helping out the center. Him and Sundel just completely washed 69 out of the play. Well done on their part. Josh Jones with a nice block there. And getting a little wide there, but that's okay. Almost hooks him. Doesn't quite get it in. Barner out there gets it set. I mean, just everybody's doing it right. But again, you're going right over Zabel's side. And he's getting movement. Yep, he's running a double team. But it's like damn near every one of these runs almost right over his edge. This one's going to go to the right this time. Could be I just got to do a little bit of mixing it up. But you still see with Gray Zabel here. Watch 2 with Zabel. Look at 43's leg here. He gets leg whipped, still keeps his feet, and just manages to stay in front of the guy. Not an easy block here on his part because the leg whip kind of throws him off. So he's got to kind of roll around, find a way to do it. But he's one of those guys that gets the job, but he can get it done pretty or get it done dirty. And not dirty where he's like on the line of the rules, but just that he's going to find a creative way to get the block laid one way or the other. You saw that on his tape even going back to North Dakota. Very smart player, but he keeps his feet well. Something that bothers me with Bradford sometimes is has a struggle of keeping his feet. Here you get your leg whipped and you still keep your feet going. And you get your block laid. This running game, though, inside, outside, pitch plays, wide zone. Time again here, not necessarily to his side, but he's got to climb to the second level and take care of the linebacker. Now, he gets blown up here. Leo Chanel's a very strong man. This guy's a beast at the linebacker position that knocked him over there. So he's not just getting taken down by somebody, whatever kind of thing. Again, too, here he's got to try to step over that foot. And I think that part of what threw him off here is he ends up stepping on the see him step right there on the foot of 56, the defensive lineman. I think that kind of set him off there a little bit. So it's also not him just getting whooped here. It's just you're trying to hit the movement block and guy's legs get kind of rooted down there. It's almost a little bit that Sundel does such a good job of laying his block. It almost gets Zabel tripped up here a little bit. But it speaks to the hardiness of your play that you can have a lineman kind of fail his block. You still end up with 6 yards on the play? And Lucas and Bradford were putting in work on their run plays. Bradford gets down to second level. Perfect setup here to Barner, by the way. Just boom, right into Barner. And by the time Lucas's guys recovered, I mean, Lucas has moved him 5 yards off the spot here. He eventually gets off the block, but look how far he's gone. Number 90, left-hand side of your screen. Look how far Lucas takes him before he finally comes back into things. I say this stuff is going to translate because of the fact so many guys are doing so many good things on these run plays. That wasn't Zabel's best, but I'm showing these run plays, man. I love them. Here we go, head up, right over his side, touchdown. I mean, this is just a thing of beauty. Your head's up, traditional type of block. You're on basically a one tech here. So they've flashed their 3 tech out over to the left side. So one-on-one with a 1 tech, that's a bigger, stronger man. You're a left tackle convert. Should be kind of a mismatch for you, taking on a nose tackle like that. But just the rooting in Look at the root here. Look how he roots right in there. See how they just, I'm going to, just that rooting in, and he's got the block here. It's laid. It's good. No, I'm clearing you out. See that little slide he gets on that little, once he lowers his head in there, gets that leverage back. Make sure he resets that leverage a little bit. And then you're going this way. He's taking you right where he wants you. And that's how you get a big fat hole there for Charbonnet to run through. I mean, shout out to Josh Jones as well for doing a great job. Shout out to the wham block here laid by, I believe that's Barner. Barner's going to be a monster too, I think, here in this. Was that Barner or was that Arroyo? No, it's Saubert. Sorry. Saubert. Very good blocker. So Zabel held it down in this game over and over again. Sundel out there, you see him doing it too as well. I mean, Sundel and Zabel again, former college teammates. Sundel takes care of his man right at the point of attack here at the center position. Zabel handles his guy. It's kind of a combo block for Josh Jones and him, but he ends up pancaking him. Ends up getting that pancake there. A 2-for-1 a little bit. He gets some help initially with Josh, but he ends up planting him.
He took us in the house and served us pancakes.
But Sundel, look at Sundel take the nose on. Undersized center in there. You got to hit the reach block, right? Look at the center. Center's not straight up with the defensive tackle. He's to his left shoulder. So you got to get over there, control him to your left shoulder, and you're trying to angle him away from where his natural leverage is to that shoulder. Meaning you're trying to take him from what is right by our angle to left. And he pulls it off. See that? See how Sundel's, as Martin was calling for why he should start? Because you're pulling off some kind of high-level stuff here. I know this is not the greatest challenge of the Chiefs in the preseason, but you not only can you get to the spot right here, but now this is the first part of it. Now the second part of it is control the block and get him sliding to the left as much as you can in the natural flow of the game. You're not going to send him on a ride to the left. Can you get him a couple steps into the wrong direction to open that hole up? Just a couple of steps with that leverage. See, I kind of just, there's a little slowdown there and you feel him kind of take that momentum away from the defensive tackle. Sundel just does great here. And Zabel right on it with the double team and plants his man to finish it up. In fact, get a little bit of a domino fall here. Three Chiefs down. 3 Chiefs down. He gets a 3-for-1. And you get a big-ass play down the football field. Zabel was just tremendous. Had another second-level block. He can do it all from the position. So he's going to climb down here, get to the linebacker. Actually, safety, technically. Lands the block. Not a big run, but he just does his job well. He can do it all. Pass protection, get to the second level, hits the reach blocks, double teams, deal with the one-tech nose tackle and handle him with power. Gives you a bit of everything, this Zabel kid. We might just have ourselves a star in our hands, though, for the position. Another one here where you got to hit the reach block, get in front of the man, get your body positioning right. Zabel gets over to the nose tackle again. Sundel and him with just beautiful combination. Look at how subtle this combination is with Sundel. First, you hold him up until Zabel can get there. There you go. Just in it. So you bounce him into Zabel, like literally bounces him into Zabel's arms, like handing a baby off. Just like hand a little baby off. Just there you go, Gray. Here you go. Take the baby. I got 43. Take the baby. I got 43. 43 ends up helping to make the tackle, but not before you busted this out for 8 yards down the field. Now, those guys have definitely worked together before, by the way. Maybe just one more reason why you have Sundel with maybe a little bit of an edge over Oluwatimi at this point. But great job by Sundel. Hands the baby off and gets down to the second level and gets the block laid. Another reach-like block. A little bit. The guy's not heads up. You got to get over laterally a couple of steps to reach the block. It's again going to be a nose tackle. So basically the Chiefs are kind of flipping their fronts here a little bit, where strong side of the formation, No, they're not flipping their fronts. This is just strong side of the formation, so they're flipping to the strong side, which is where you'd have the nose tackle. So you're getting a good amount of reps here with him on the nose, which gives you some good, interesting battles here for the coaches to look at, and he's doing a good job on them. 92 gets in and does make the play, but again, we're talking about a 4 or 5 yard run. That's a successful play. If you've neutralized the block long enough for them to get through that hole, get down there, get that 4 or 5 yard gain, you're going to take that every time as an offensive coordinator. Not every block's got to be a dominator. And just in getting the initial win like he did here was enough to clear this play for the 4 or 5 yard gain. Last one here. This one's Zabel's, again, showing off just some really incredible kind of athleticism for a guy at 300 pounds. Watch the feet. Again, watching the ability to clear through traffic and clear through the mess of ankles you got to get through sometimes to get down that second level. I mean, like, he literally hops over the guy's ankle and then gets to and lays the block. Look at this. Look at that thing. The guy's like literally trying to trip him. See that? Jumps right over the top of it, catches the linebacker seamlessly. We got ourselves a good one, folks. We got ourselves a good one. And never loses the block, by the way. Finishes this thing up all the way down the line. 59, see how he tries to throw him off, can't do it. He's sticky, man. And not sticky in the way he holds. He's just sticky, and once he latches you up, you're latched. That latch is closed, it's locked. It's going to take a lot to get off of him. Maybe a 330-pound nose tackle, but that's going to take a couple seconds. So, Gray Zabel was my underrated hero of the week. You could have chosen a couple other guys too with this. Tariq Young with his 3 catches, 50 yards. Some of those catches were like money on third downs where you really didn't need it. Certainly a couple of the running backs you could have picked through on this. Sundell would have been a great potential guy you could look at. Abraham Lucas and how he blocked early on out there too. So a lot of candidates for this one for the underrated hero of the week. But I'm going to go with Zabel just because the fact the coaching staff trusts him this much with so many of those runs going over his side, that they trust him to do a variety of different things that they're having him do out there, from climbing the second level, hitting reach blocks, doing the combo blocks in there with Sundell there off the spot like you saw. Very impressive stuff all around. This kid is going to be, I think, right out the gate good. I don't think anything great out the gate, but he'll be good out the gate. And that is so much of a huge boon for this offensive line. It just starts to narrow down now the things that are weaknesses, especially if Lucas is back 100% out there, to where you really just concentrate on right guard and center, and that's all you got to kind of look at it. Maybe with Sundell, we got our center here with this. All right, let's go take a look at this NFC West and see what's going on with our competition. This is always going to be a point of the show that we're going to include because it's always good to keep an eye on your enemy, see what they're up to. Also gives us a better idea of what we're going to be kind of walking in towards this upcoming season as far as this division. And is it going to be the toughest division in football? Are we going to get a little bit of a respite maybe this year in that case of things? So let's take a look at this NFC West and track what's going on with them. Mixed bag is what you're going to get here a little bit with the NFC West. And it's not been a bad preseason overall, but there's definitely a bit of a mixed bag. We start out from a big picture quotient of things with the Arizona Cardinals. I think that right out the gate, you're going to look at them at 1-1 and say injuries have been a bit of an issue for them here in preseason. Their cornerback room has been lightened up. Walter Nolan, the first-round pick, has still been yet to play on that side of it. They do have Marvin Harrison out there and going good. But the injury thing already is a little bit of a concern for this Cardinal team, and the play on the field has not been necessarily great in addition to that. You have the Chiefs. They beat 20-17 in the week 1 matchup there, and then they lost the Broncos last week 27-7, and it was a really ugly game this last week against the Broncos as far as the Cardinals are concerned. They just really couldn't get anything done offensively speaking. Clayton Tune is a guy that the fan base is completely out on, averaging 2.8 yards per attempt. Playing most of that game. I think the good news for the Cardinals is they brought in Jacoby Brissett this year. That gives them a little bit more of a steadying force there as a backup quarterback to Kyler Murray. But what does stand out in both of these two games as far as the passing attack for the Arizona Cardinals is it only mustered 99 yards of passing offense. Is that this is an offense that you walk into out the gate wondering a little bit about the playmakers on the outside. Do they have enough receivers? Do they have enough firepower to be productive enough offensively, especially if they can't run the ball? And this game, you see that they only have a couple of catches to actually their receivers. Simi Fehoko's got 2 catches for 21 yards. Andre Baselli with only 2 catches for 20 yards. So 5 catches to Michael Carter. That's a running back out of the backfield making those catches. And then when you look at their first game against the Chiefs as well with this, same thing kind of holds true here with them on that side of it too as well, where you've got Bam Knight with 6 catches, which is good, but then Trey Benson, or not Bam Knight, but you got 2 catches there to Travis Vokolek. And then you've got Greg Dortch with 2 catches in the first game as well. So both games, like 4 catches from your outside receivers, and then it's running backs and kind of tight ends. It's going to be hard for the Cardinal offense this year, in my opinion, to be able to live in this area where they're going to try to just not have enough receivers to kind of throw to and hope they can get by doing that. You can really see with them that they probably should have this offseason have gone just a little bit harder when it came to the receiving room and making sure Kyler had more guys to throw to. Trey McBride's nice. Marvin Harrison Jr. is nice. But boy, I go to that and I go, this is where their fatal flaw, I think, will come into bear on top of the injury thing, sandwiching in on top of this. Because there has been still some rough roads for guys like Will Johnson. He's not looked instantaneously great. He's looked all right. He's had his up and down moments, and they're leaning on that guy to be a starter day one because of their injuries they've sustained at the cornerback position, and to be a good starter day one for them, which we will see on that part of it. The Niners didn't play particularly all that good, even in a win, based on the way your kind of Niner content creators talk about them and where they're at as far as their outlook of the team right now. Mac Jones has had some productivity and he's had some accuracy and he's been able to put the ball in some decent places at times, but he's got a couple interceptions as well this preseason period in some pretty extensive action on that. I think the team is also still trying to kind of look for who their backup running backs are going to kind of be in this situation. And with Christian McCaffrey's injury situation, you do, I'm sure from their standpoint, get a little worried about that. I think they've had Garendo's got an injury as well. So there's a little bit of a lightness with them on that injury front. Robbie Chosen leading the way for them in the receiving core. I think you can make of that what you will a little bit with that one on where that stands as far as what that tells you about their receiving room. And I do think it's an interesting point of looking at this team for the week 1 matchup, especially as we come up to that one. A team, by the way, that they beat the Raiders this last week, and that was nice where they were able to squeak that one out at the end, but they did lose to the Broncos. Broncos have beaten up on 2 teams in this preseason period already. But one thing stands out with the receiving room where it's at for the Niners right now, being that you have Brandon Ayuk's going to miss the game week 1. Juwan Jennings is still holding in right now. So is Juwan Jennings probably likely to maybe miss week 1 / maybe not be at his best unless in 2 weeks he can get himself into perfectly good shape all of a sudden? And maybe not with the calf. Maybe the calf still an issue if it truly is the calf that he can't. And now that takes them down to Ricky Pearsall, the kid that got out of Arizona a couple of years ago in like the 5th or 6th round, a Jordan Watkins, a DeMarcus Robinson. I think that you're looking at a Niner team that week 1 who could be walking into Seattle very light as far as their receiving core goes. Defensively speaking for the Niners, they've up and down play with Nick Martin. He had himself a sack last week. He's eaten up some tackles. They're a little bit like the Rams where they've had some kind of back-end guys that they didn't count on being good, who've been pretty good throughout training camp. But I think it has been overall considered a little bit of a mixed bag for them as far as this goes. Now, McCaffrey's healthy, and you've got Kittle there rolling along. He's going good, and Warner's doing well. So they do have still their star guys that are doing pretty good here with Trent Williams out there. All that's going well so far as that things kind of stand with them on that. So they'll still remain the strong team coming into that week 1, but that receiving room, you worry just a little bit about where that'll stand. The Rams have finally got Stafford back on the practice field here today for the first time. It still does remain a little bit of a weird situation as far as that goes with the injury situation. But they've had a couple of really good weeks of preseason football. They beat the Cowboys after just owning them, it sounds like, throughout the week at the inner practices they had leading up to the game, where they just, the 31-21, I guess, was even not as bad as the practices were. Supposedly the Cowboys just looked awful in those practices, and the Rams were just taking it to them, and they took it to them in the game as well. Interesting to note that Stetson Bennett's getting such a lot of run this preseason versus a guy like Garoppolo, and it does really feel like they're trying to make sure they've got Bennett prepared so that if there is a Stafford injury, you've got your number 3 ready to be your number 2, because once you have Garoppolo in there, you're probably going to your number 3 quickly at that point because he gets injured, he gets beat up. Shout out to Brendan Jackson, got himself a couple of sacks in the first Rams game. A guy maybe can add a little bit of edge help to them, especially as far as an early down run edge defender with a little bit of pass rush. Cool to see him get a couple of sacks for the Wazoo kid out there. And they've had a couple guys just, Xavier Smith, Brattain Covey, Drake Stoops. I know they think Kanata Mumfield will be a good receiver there for him. He had 2 catches in this game against the Cowboys, but it's been more of kind of those names out there that you wouldn't, as much expect. Cody Schrader's running the ball really well for them. Jarquez Hunter hasn't really seen the yard per carry average good through the first couple of games for them, but Blake Corum had good runs in the last game, though only able to average 3.6 yards per carry in this first one against Dallas. But the Rams are pretty healthy overall as it stands. You have the blood clot issue there with Alaric Jackson. You have the back injury. Situation is a little bit of a concern right now with Stafford, but you remove that, they're in okay shape overall outside of that, as they are looking like they're about ready here for the regular season, and they're going to be a tough team as it concerns coming up into this regular season. So mixed bag as far as the division goes. I think the Cardinals are looking a little bit in that tracking mode of, you want to look at a team that I am going to put at the 4th place team in this division. I think that this is the team that's going to be there, and I think that they've set this up a little bit by trying to go so defensive heavy, by not getting more playmakers out there for Kyler. I think that they've just put themselves in that position to kind of make that the way that this thing's, going to kind of roll. No, she's up there, so you can't go up there. That's how this works. You don't get to kick her off. No, you're not kicking her off. So that's the way that goes. All right, let's keep it moving on here. And I want to talk about 2 particular plays from your Seattle Seahawks here this last week. And you didn't blitz a lot in this game, but I wanted to cover a couple of these real magnificent play calls here from our Mike McDonald. Just when he wants to whip out that flavor, when he wants to bring it out and give it to you and say, hey, I got some wrinkles I can throw at you that you ain't going to see coming. Man, do they hit hard. And I want to show you guys a couple of play calls this week that just hit a little bit different.
This one hit different.
So we're going to look at 2 blitz points in this game that you ran, and you ran for the reason of that you wanted to, my thoughts right here. You ran these blitzes because you had them in 3rd down and long, and you were wanting to force their hand on 3rd down and long. And it's something that McDonald, to me, is master of anything else defensively speaking, is that if he gets you in 3rd and long, from the stack boxes, the simulated pressures, the ability to manipulate you to throw to a hot route read that they're then going to be able to rally up and tackle up on the ball before you can get to the sticks on the 1st down marker. He is just absolutely he's really good at it. It stands out over and over going his play calling where you just go, wow, this guy just really has a good understanding of what offenses are trying to do on these 3rd and longs and how he can kind of just take the tools away from them, where they're just sort of just sitting there just staring and going, man, there's nothing we can do. He doesn't give you any options. He doesn't give you any exits. You're just kind of trapped, and it's where he's at his best. And the more 3rd and longs this defense can pull out, I'll tell you out throughout the season, the better, because you see what he can do with it when you do give him these opportunities. So you can see from the 3rd down marker here that you are at the 16-yard line. The 1st down marker is at about the 11. So this is actually a 3rd and 4. Let me actually get this up here. Yeah. Okay, so this is a 3rd and 4. You're at the 16-yard line. You can see the 1st down marker above there at the 11-yard line. So this isn't even as much a 3rd and as long as he usually does this. But you hadn't blitzed much in this game, so this completely caught the Chiefs off guard. And this is what they call a casino blitz. Casino blitz is a beautiful thing. You're rolling the dice. Why do they call it casino blitz? Because you're leaving no extra men on the back end. You're attempting to blitz a front and throw too many men at that front of the offensive line, then they are able to block. So count it up here as far as the Seattle Seahawks you have in the offensive line here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many Chiefs offensive linemen do you have? Well, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So you got your 5 set, but then you got your 1 back. So you have your 7 for 6 in the setup here. And that's where you've got the extra numbers game. So now he's got up and down here, you got your corner on the outside, guarding his guy, the other corner on the outside, off coverage, 1 guy in press, 1 guy in off, and then you got your other 2 guys set up here. So you're going to get a free rusher. Can the quarterback find his hot route read or throw it and get the ball out before the free rusher can get to them? Well, it's very hard to do so. And you see the quarterback tries a pirouette move, just ends up throwing this thing away. But he's essentially, if he tries to take this extra hitch drop thing, so you got to essentially, when you're going to throw out of a casino blitz, You basically got to hit your back foot and let it go. He can't do this little extra slide thing he does or he's cooked. But he can't throw it here because nobody's open. You have to throw it blind or with supreme anticipation to be able to complete this ball. And that's what's great about this blitz is it forces the hand before the receivers are open to get anything done. So even the running back gets the guy picked up, but now the edge guy's clear. That's that numbers game you're running. For years here, we just didn't blitz, and this is the beauty of blitzing. Is there a risk to be taken here? Yeah, there's a little bit of a risk. But when you get down near the goal line, you're maybe willing to run a little bit more of the risk. There's less of a big play to get you beat up over the top. And if they don't have any short routes, and the thing you see about the Chiefs here is they're trying to push all these routes up the field. Those are longer developing routes. That's why the quarterback pirouettes here. If you happen to catch him at the right point with this, and he doesn't have a hot route called, and that running back's got to stay in to block, one less receiver to throw to, one less hot to hit, now you're toast. Beautiful play call here by Mike McDonald. And again, on third down, he can just be so tough to deal with. Same, a little bit later in this game. A little bit later, again, this is going to be a little bit more of a third and longer situation here. This is more of, I think, like a 3rd and 11-ish. See the sticks there at the top there at about the 45-yard line. So you got a little bit of a longer one, a little bit of a similar concept to the last one. Not quite casino blitz, but kind of close to it as well. Here you do have at least the one extra guy back in the safety position, so it's just almost on that phase of things. But still, you've got the 6 guys up on the line of scrimmage for essentially what is now going to be the 6 potential blockers in total for the Chiefs when you include the running back who's going to stay in. When you run these stack fronts like this, the quarterback's going to keep the running back in because if he doesn't, you're then going to get that free rusher, right? And then that's where the safety will then come up, the one safety who's kind of uncovered, so to speak. He can come up now and climb and grab that running back at that point. What Mike McDonald's trying to do on this play is actually get this out to the hot route. The problem is the blitz gets there so fast that the guy's got to run and scramble out of the play. So if you watch how this play is set up, you're in press coverage to disrupt the route at the bottom side so you can't throw it quick to that guy. You've got the safety climbing up. Let's unpack this a little bit here. Safety on the top side here, Okada. He's going to climb up to take away what would be a slant route from this receiver. So you're in press. If the receiver takes the inside leverage there, you've got the safety climbing down here to now remove that slant route or a post route as well. The receiver wants to win on this. He's going to have to slide around the edge and get out to the outside and run the 9 route if that's the way you're going to see a win on this play for them, because he's effectively can kind of be doubled here by Okada. That's why the guy at the corner at the bottom can press so kind of heartily. So he's removed from this play essentially, and the quarterback knows it. Now you're trying to take away sort of a 3-for-2 situation at the top of your, sort of 3-for-3 at the top of your situation here. And you're making sure that any of these guys that climb down to the sticks at the 45-yard line, you're going to have essentially 3 Seattle Seahawks down there around the sticks. You got one guy deep, but notice how nobody's climbing up on the play. See how everybody's into a drop. Yeah, it's to the 11-yard line, but what you're doing is you're also basically giving the offense a slice of cheese, hopefully to the quarterback. I saw them do this last year in the Falcons game brilliantly as well in a similar kind of down and distance. What I mean by that is you want to give them the hot route read open here. So do you see the hot route? Which one would it be? Of course, the guy at the top of the screen, right? Look at him running free and clear. And then you see all those Seahawks piled in right at the sticks, playing the sticks. My God, how good that looks. We're actually not going to give you the first down. So what they're doing in anticipation of this, and I know they've instructed the players on this, you drop to the sticks. We're looking for there's not going to be multiple guys leaking out in the flat. They're going to have to deal with our blitz here. So you're going to get one leaker into the flat at most. They might go full max protect and you get no leakers. And at that point, we got him because he's not going to have enough time to get down to those routes down the field. And we're covering it up at depth with our coverages. So we're going to have one guy open out in the flat, that guy. Quarterback throws to him. We're going to have two guys ready to rally. So if the quarterback hit his back foot right here, right, and you didn't have the free rusher, and he just threw this out to the tight end there on that short little route, you look at the Seahawks defender's body language on this play, 46, and then look at the guy over 46's left shoulder. Do they look like they're looking at the receivers, or do they look like they're looking at that hot route? And I swear to God that they've told him, we're going to leave the hot route open. Guy's going to throw to it. You two rally up, combo up on the tackle. It's done. And look where the sticks are at the 45. If he makes that catch, he's going to be 4 or 5 yards short of the first down. A brilliant play call to me. and he does this in the regular season as well. Set up on the back of the stack boxes. Rather than letting the offense dictate to you, you're dictating the terms to the offense. First, you're dictating the protections. You're forcing one less running back to go out and one less guy to be out as a pass catcher. And then the secondary part of this is that you're forcing them to throw to the hot. Multiple things going on here at once. Can't hit the hot, though, because the blitz gets there so fast, because you basically get a free rusher. As you see, the running back kind of makes a weird decision here. Watch the running back on this play, because I don't know what he was doing. Watch him. Guy goes right past him. It's like the guy goes invisible. See that? Isn't that wild? Just completely goes invisible around the running back. He straight up olays him. Look at him olay him. And then he gets in there and tries to act like he's blocking another guy. You let the free rusher come through. Nice job there on the blitz, but golly, running back's got to get better effort than that, doesn't he? So a couple of beautiful plays here from Mike McDonald in this game. I love when he blitzes. I think you're going to see more of it dialed up than ever. Tariq Woolen, on a recent interview, kind of gave up a little bit of a tidbit that I thought was very interesting, which is that he told Richard Sherman right now they've got him pressing more than ever, that he's out there doing that. And so I've got a working theory right now this year defensively that there's going to be a very strong intention to dial up the blitz game this year more than ever, and maybe as much as Mike McDonald has ever done it. And I've got some reasoning as to why I believe this is going to be the case. First off, never forget within this defense, when you go back to the origins of this defense, that it is a press man cover corner kind of defense, and its origins going back to Buddy Ryan and how his sons ran it as well. That's at its best. It wants to stack boxes, press you on the outside, run man coverage. Good luck getting off our press in time before the blitz gets to you. Now, it's evolved over the years. Mike McDonald has evolved it in other ways, more off coverage, more zone coverage, less blitzing, more four-man fronts. That's been how Mike has gone up until this point. But I think he also is a guy that's very smart about taking advantage of the exact personnel he has rather than the one-size-fits-all, and then molding the personnel to what they do best. So he wants to get Nick Emawari out on the field. Doesn't have an opening out there for Emawari to get out there at safety. Basically, this is in the spirit of getting your best 11 guys on the field at once. So where can I place him? Slot is the natural place to impart him, right? That's the next spot you'd go if you don't have safety open for him. So you put him down in the same slot. Well, then what does that mean for Witherspoon? You're kicking Witherspoon to the outside. What did Witherspoon do best at Illinois? By far. What was he asked to do most at Illinois? By far. Man coverage. Press man coverage. So because you have Emawari wanting to get on the field, and then you're sliding Witherspoon to outside corner, and you don't want him doing as much zone in what he doesn't do as well as what he does in press man, then now you also will be having Witherspoon doing some similar stuff to the other side of the field, and that is also what Witherspoon does at his best, I would say. Witherspoon in a press man coverage situation, no, you can't knock her. She tried to give her a whack. But you can't, I think I'm making a leap here of logic a little bit, that you're going to have these guys now because of the dictating Witherspoon to the outside and getting Emawari out there. Now it's going to maybe better instruct a little bit of your defensive fronts to run a little bit more of those games, run a little bit more of those stack boxes, run a little bit more of the blitzing. And that you're taking a little bit more of a pressure-based approach to offenses this upcoming year. Because my final note on this is that the one vulnerability that lies with Mike McDonald's defense that we know is absolutely there, and there's kind of nothing you can do about it in the way you've run things currently, is that you have your two defensive tackles in kind of tight. You have a 1 tech and you'll have your 3 tech like you would in a 4-3 defense. But then you've got your outside linebackers, and not just sometimes a wide 9 technique alignment, but they'll be out in like a wide, what I call wide 10. It's not really a thing. I'm making it a thing where it's an extra yard of width. They're getting wide. So you have your defensive tackles in compounded tight. You got your edges out wide. You have natural gaps in the A and the B gaps at times to be able to hammer the run and be able to double team guys at the point of attack. And those edges can't get down there fast enough. And those linebackers have to consistently deal with second level climbers over and over and over again rather than being able to run free. A way you could mitigate this is you stack the box up. You get the fifth man down the line of scrimmage. I get a fifth man on the line of scrimmage. Now that wide zone doesn't have four men that are trying to get laterally to a spot. Now I've got the one extra man out there. Much easier for our guys to get out laterally to a spot here or to here, either side. Less my guys have to go distance-wise laterally if it's just a four-down line situation. But now I can clog those holes up on the inside as well. Now I can take away those natural gaps that exist. And now what are you going to try to do? Well, maybe you'll try to run, but we can blitz you and we can run man coverage on the outside. I'd love it if this is where this is headed. I don't know for sure that this is where it's headed, but the way that Woolen's talking about playing as much press and the slide of Witherspoon out to the edge and just wanting to get Emawari on the field because he does look like that kind of difference maker here a little bit right out the jump. I think this is going to be a big pull for Mike McDonald this upcoming season, and you will love watching it. It is fun football. It is aggressive football. It's a we're going to take it to you type of defense. And that's the type of defense I love to watch. Next little segment here on our way through this as we're getting closer here on the end of this. We'll get over to you guys in the chat. Let's take a look at the biggest hit of the week. Didn't have a lot of ones this week, but I was able to find one.
The biggest hit of the week.
They've legislated hitting out of the game by and large. It's just not there as much as it once was, and that sucks because that was always a fun part of NFL, but I get it. You want to protect these players. You want to make sure you're taking care of them. I can't argue with that. I get that. So not a lot of great opportunities in this game as far as hits-wise, but a nice little thud here from Kobe Bryant at the end of this. As if you watch this play, and I'm going to play it a couple times, just watch him. He's got him a little shaky after this hit. It's a subtle one because he hits him as he's going down low, and he really gets it, but he even gives him a little bit of the old Allen Iverson step over after because he's feeling himself after this hit. So a nice little sting there by Kobe. Watch the head kind of little woozy there on the head too as he gets up. Watch the head of the Chiefs player. I think he's making that noise when he gets up. Kobe got him. He can hit a little bit. We know that about him. He can force a fumble from time to time. And how about Kobe coming up in a nice little preseason game, laying a little bit of wood? A lot of big hits in this game. It's hard. I was looking for him. There wasn't a lot. There was one other one, maybe the Julian Love one you could point to, but that one was a little bit harder, and he got a little bit of reaction there from the receiver getting up. So I figured let's give him the nod on that one. Give him the nod. All right, next segment up, and this will be our last one of the day here before we get over to you guys in the chat, is it's me ripping off the old ESPN segment, Come On Man. I always liked that segment. I thought it was interesting in times because you could pick a certain play that can give you a little bit of, a look into the mind of the player in the moment or just laugh at a player. Sometimes it's lighthearted. Sometimes it's maybe a little bit more on the serious side. Today's going to be a little bit more on the serious side. And it's a little bit of this is more of a, I guess, thing that you would say to the players trying to make the team of like, look, this is something that you just can't happen if you're a guy that's on the bubble and trying to make an NFL roster. And it's got to be hard for especially wide receivers who play their whole career and they've gone out there and they've been a wide receiver and they've not been asked to play special teams. And, I just catch the ball and I just try to, run with the ball off the catch. And that's maybe able to block every once in a while. But you're not making me play special teams. And then you get to the NFL and they ask you to play special teams for the first time and you're not comfortable doing it. Maybe you don't have the physicality and the want to do it. But this is how you keep your NFL livelihood alive by this method until you can maybe develop as a receiver to be workable in a game. And unfortunately, on this play, you're going to see from Tyron Bowden what could essentially be a play that a lot of players can get you cut instantaneously because it's the kind of play where they would say, we can never teach this part of the game for you. We can never get this part of the game right for you. You'll never have the want in your play to get better at this aspect because you just don't have the will to do it. Because if you don't have the will to do it right now, when you're on the bubble of not only a roster, but a bubble of even making the practice squad, then how are you going to do it when you have that more assured, when you are given that position? How will not the effort be even lighter at that point? These are the type of plays here that determine you making that roster or not, that make the practice squad or not. And Tyron Bowden has had a really, really, really good training camp. Him and Jalen Milroe have a hell of a connection. They've hit each other at least damn near a half dozen times on deep routes throughout the course of training camp and the scrimmage and all of that. But this cannot be the effort you display on a play. And I'll slow it down so you can see it. He's coming down from the outside of this formation. His outside shoulder is his leverage responsibility. What I mean by that is the kick returner, punt returner cannot get outside your outside shoulder. Why? Because you are the outside man. See that? He's coming as the outside gunner. So his outside shoulder cannot have somebody creep past. The rest of the guys over his left shoulder are attacking from their own lanes. I know you can't see, like, well, how does lanes on a punt return? Just trust me, there are lanes here. And he cannot allow outside of his right shoulder to lose that outside leverage. On top of the fact, he's got the freaking not sideline to just push the guy out. If you're protecting that, you don't have to even tackle him to your outside shoulder. You just got to edge him out of bounds if he takes that lane to your outside shoulder. Instead, we can see here a half-hearted effort on his part. It's not even like he gets blocked out of the play. I mean, it's a half-hearted effort block, if anything. But look at that two-handed touch BS. I'm not one to go after players, but when you're supposed to be fighting for your NFL livelihood and you're supposed to be showing you want it, this is not wanting it. This is lackluster effort. This is the kind of play that, despite having a great training camp with Jalen Milroe, if we come to the end of training camp and this guy's one of the people cut, it's not going to be a surprise to me. You got to do better than that. That's not good enough. That's not going to get the job done. Tyron Bowden, come on, man. Come on. Where's my come on? Wait a second here. Let me get my come on, man, here. Come on, man. My timing was awful on that. My timing was awful, but that is awful effort as well from Tyrone. And I'm not gonna say your name right if you're not gonna do it right. Okay, that's the way this works. Tyrone. You make some tackles on special teams, I'll start saying your name right. But the coaches gave him hell for that one. It allowed a punt return touchdown in this game, and just put kind of a bit of the old punctuation mark there. Period on the struggles with the kick return game as it kind of struggle, kick and punt return game as it stands right now, which is unfortunate for sure. A couple of more donations here. Let me get caught up on these. Oh no, we're all caught up. Good. Let's get over to you guys in the chat. See where everybody's at here. We'll probably go for just a little bit longer today. I've got another show tonight. We're going to be having Bryce Coots on of Hawk Zone. We're a little bit of a collab we're going to be doing tonight. Me and Bryce got into some really good conversations on the berm at training camp when we're watching Jalen Milroe and just kind of breaking down his mechanics and talking a little bit about that. And I wanted to have him come on as a guy's a former quarterback and who does himself coaches kids as far as on this goes too, and training and all this and some of the newer methods we have with quarterbacking and just picking a little bit of his brain in regards to Jalen Milroe, his development, his future, what it's going to kind of take to get there. So do please join me tonight at 6:00 as we'll be having Bryce on for a kind of a little quick in and outer show on that, just to do a little bit of discussion on that. But really appreciate him coming on. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun conversation there here tonight as well. Thomas says, I want to tone it down with excitement with the O-line. I even looked the week 2 preseason game versus the Titans. It was night and day. I want to see what they do in the inter-squad game, but they look ready. I think it's good to not necessarily let things get overdrawn or overstated too much, because that's what you're seeing all across the board in the preseason with the fans and even guys that are analysts in the situation where they let one preseason performance take them to the moon in their outlook for a team for the season. And we know that that's precarious ground to be standing on. So I think to be, a little reticent on this and to not just get totally overboard is right. But I think it's as well, like you say, going back, watch a Titans preseason game last year and the way that looked versus the way this offensive execution looks. And it's not even that you didn't find some success in that Titans game, offensively speaking. It's just that success, it was like a receiver made a great play down the field on a big throw down the field or something. It wasn't as much as that play in and play out. You're seeing guys in detail-driven nature executing those details, and that you can feel things more working together on a string, especially as that offensive line goes. And that stuff does feel like it should carry over. That does feel like it should have some factor and weight to the regular season when that time comes, Thomas. But we're trying here. We're trying to contain that excitement. They go out there and they do it again this week against the Packers. I don't know if we're going to be able to hold it back for 2 weeks on that one. Misfits says my kitty's been playing laser pointer, which he goes after like a total maniac. Yeah, I've tried the pointer with mine too. She needs the real thing. I can't trick her on that one. Oh, Kevin, thank you for reminding that. Please do, folks, if you could for me today, hit that like button. It helps me out. It helps the channel grow, helps me show and all that good stuff. I really do appreciate it as well. Daniel Barry, how you doing? Kevin says Charbonnet leveled up on the offseason. Comparing that gameplay to the night we played Chicago at the end of the season is insane how night and day it was. Looks good. He looks explosive. He doesn't look like he's lost any power with a little bit of that explosiveness that he has gained, to your point on that. And a guy that's going to get touches in this offense. He's your third down back minimum, but he's getting touches beyond that too. Seth Kalani makes more and more sense every day. You're right about that. Going to be cheap. Knows the defense. Knows the team. Been here before. There's just too much in alignment there that makes sense here for me. Thomas says, if Seattle was trading for Parsons, then I would be okay with it. Trading Mafe and 2 firsts, maybe more, but Hendrickson isn't worth that much. Agreed. That's the thing with him. Maybe a second in Haynes or a surprise K9. Yeah, you could maybe find some kick in there with Hendrickson to make the price get, like to your point, lowered at that point from the place it's at. I mean, to me, the Bengals aren't even getting a first round pick right now as it stands right now. You're not even a best case scenario where you're going to get that. Can you get a second plus at this point from a Bengal perspective? I mean, maybe. Part of me feels like the Bengals bungled it, because if you were going to move him at this point, you had to move him far before this range of things. Like, he should have already have been gone to maximize those returns. The draft, for instance. That's part of what feels like this to me on this, is that the Bengals are going to have to take in the shorts because you waited too damn long on this. King Bomber, I wouldn't be comfortable giving up more than Mafe and a third for Hendrickson. Yeah, that's where I feel like the price is just about at this point for Hendrickson, as it stands, to your point, King. Where it's like, look, if you're going to wait this long and you're going to get to a place where there's less teams that have money to spend to give him the contract he wants, and teams are more locked in, and they're not going to get him for a full off season of OTAs, they're not going to get him for a full training camp. You're asking teams to take on a lot of risk. You know, how many of these players, King Bomber, that sit out all of training camp and then finally come in and play in like the last week of training camp practice? How many of those guys end up injured during the regular season? There's a lot of inherent risk here. And I agree with you. I think the price has gone low on the Bengals. You should have traded him at the draft. You didn't do that. You should have traded him at the start of training camp. You didn't do that. Well, now you ain't getting nothing back in return. You messed it up. You don't get rewarded for that. I think they're trying to make Hendrickson pay the price for that, but it's not his fault either. Martin says, I would like to see us get Parsons, but I don't see us getting a deal done for him. I'd like to see it too, but I agree with you. I don't know that I see it either. I think a team out there would make some other bigger swing to make it go. Just the other couple of teams that I think would be a little more aggressive than we would probably be willing to. And I think the team just where things are at and how training camps run with the defense and kind of that all for one for all thing they've got in that locker room going right now, defensively speaking, as they're really leading the way in a lot of ways. I just think that something that they don't want to also probably disturb too much in the way that would. Nitro Hawk, that hat bet is getting worse and worse every day for Jesse. Oh, I'm getting the customization one done too. My mom was telling me that you can do this on lids, so I'm just going to do it on lids, but I'm going to get such a just swagged out, absolutely ostentatious hat for him to wear on the round table, man. I can't wait. Seth says, I'm sorry, but from what I've been seeing from this O-line, they're going to dominate that hurt and young Niners defensive line. That's true, man. It is a very young defensive line at this point. It's got some talent, but it's going to be a very green bunch coming into Seattle in that week 1 matchup. Joe Z says, hey, B, there's some chatter about extending Abe. What do you think it would cost if they did it now? I think that you get the benefits of this where with Cross right now, if you sign him to an extension, I think that there's some savings, but some of those savings are just because of the fact that it would go he goes out and has a Pro Bowl year and his cost just explodes. But he still ends up becoming a hardy re-signing right now where you're probably still in the $20 million territory for Cross, even on kind of the low end saving you'd get for him right now by signing him now. Whereas with Lucas, I think there's more of the significant cost savings by doing this now because there's not as much of the pelts on the wall from him like there is with Cross, number one. But number two, the fact that you are taking the risk on your side with the injury history And so that could kind of substantially potentially lower down what Lucas came in at. So could you get a deal done with Lucas, like a 3-year 30 and get him like 17.5 bonus and like 23 guaranteed, or a little bit more than that? You're not playing around in this range of things. And then he goes out there and gives you like top 10-ish level of performance from the tackle position. And that deal looks like a bargain in the years into the future. So this is where I could see it making a lot of sense. I've thought Lucas could be one of the guys that the deal gets done on with that, because the savings are much more increased versus, be it either Cross or be it either Lucas or be it even Woolen. All three of these guys in the deal they sign right now for what they're going to want is probably not going to be a significant amount of savings versus the cost going into next year if they have a good year. They're kind of already have shown enough to have earned those good deals, so to speak. So it makes sense, Joe. It kind of tracks in my mind on this if I'm in John's shoes on that one. Thomas says, Brian thinks MBS might be a trade chip or cut because Bobo and Young are special teams players. That's my thought as well, Thomas, with this. And the special teams part is the part that you can't undersell with this, because the fact that the back-end receivers on the roster need to play special teams naturally, number one. Number two, your special teams unit has got a big concern right now when it comes to defending kicks and punts, and that has gone back to last year. One way to mitigate that is to make sure you got prime guys out there defending those kickoff returns and punt returns. And if you've got a guy in Scandling, I just showed a rep there with Tyron Bowden as a receiver out there doing a job he doesn't want to do, giving a half-hearted effort. I think that's, if you don't think Marquez can do that, that's enough on that to probably kind of cause you to go, okay, we just can't do this. I don't think that you're going to get a lot from him in trade value, really. I mean, maybe a 7th round pick, maybe, but even that, I'm not sure that there's a team that just wouldn't be like, yeah, we'll just wait for you to cut him. Seth says, Jay Harbaugh needs to go, in my opinion. Kickoff and punt coverage have been absolutely atrocious since he's taken over. It's been pretty bad. It's been pretty disappointing. So I would like to see either improvement here or like, yeah, let's get on our horse, Jay. I was watching the first kick return. One guy just left his gap oddly, just kind of ran out of his gap for no reason. He was chasing the up man, and the kick return just ran right back up through the hole. So it's not been good so far. Thomas says, I have to say Jesse will look good in a Seahawks hat. Too bad the bet is a jersey and a hat and him saying go Hawks. I am going to make him say go Hawks. Thrill House, I don't see Stafford making all through the season. McVay sounded nervous about talking about it. Yeah, I'm very, and Jake is just so nonplussed by this over the NFC West roundtable. And if I told you guys the reasoning why, by the way, you guys would laugh your ass off. Because he gave us some behind the scenes reason as to why he thinks what he thinks, which I'm not going to divulge here. But backs are tough, and when they go sideways, they're unpredictable. You might think you got things healed for a moment, and then suddenly it jumps back up and gets you. It's very tough to predict those things, especially when you're where he's at in his career. Long career, back injuries before, getting epidermal shots. Thomas says, Grant Cohn even said that it's going to suck when Seattle beats the Niners with Kyle Shanahan's scheme. We finally got it. We finally figured it out. Yeah, he knows what's up on that. I mean, he knows a lot about, I'm sure, about the fact that from Grant's perspective, a lot of the Niners being able to take it to Seattle in recent years since Shanahan has arrived has been Shanahan's ability to attack our particular scheme, and that his scheme is well suited to go after this Coach Carroll kind of defense that we used to run. It's like it was the antidote to the defense in a lot of ways, but now we've got the antidote. Now what you going to do? Seth says Peely and Bohanna should absolutely make the roster as our nose tackles. Peely for sure. I think Peely's got a chance. You're not going to hold both of them unless Hankins is just not able to go. But Peely's making some noise to make it happen. And I think Bohanna's had a solid camp too. Bohanna probably goes onto the practice squad, Seth, because both guys can probably get them onto the practice squad if you have to. That might be the one thing that pushes them both there. Peely's probably earned it, but just that nobody's going to snatch him up. We can kind of keep him over here. Yeah, Josh Jones, Eric, has been very impressive. I love and I like the kid coming out of college. Hasn't been able to do as much as a pro, but I do keep coming back to how much I really did like his tape at college and thought he had a little bit of something there. Kendrick, no, Chris Jones wasn't playing. I think it's like 69 is the jersey number. It looks like 99. But Chris Jones wasn't playing on Sunday or Friday. CD Woods, can't wait to see Zabel and Cross. Left side's going to dominate. Yeah, it's going to look good. You're right. It's going to look real good. Yeah, Cable was tripped on that one play that he had kind of got dropped on his back there. Not his fault. Yeah, Larry, I'm that way too with this K9 thing because a lot of people love it in Charbonnet and I'm with it, but I imagine the same thing. Like you give K9 these kind of holes and he's not just going to exploit it for a 20-yard gain. Like he will house it. He's that kind of back with that kind of speed to do that. And that's one of the rare things he has in his bag other backs just don't have, is both that explosiveness and that long speed. We got to see in the first year with the Saints' big run that he had and the Chargers' big run that he had. We just haven't opened those kind of holes for him in recent years. Yeah, Nitro's in the same place. Says, man, I find it hard to believe that Stafford's going to stay healthy the whole season. I'm in the same boat. I don't see how this is going to float. I just it's getting this late of an hour. It's one thing if we're in OTAs and then we're talking about this stuff. It's another thing when we've gone through 2 preseason games. He's just now getting out there for now a day of practice now. Let's see how that reacts with his back. Maybe he's slow playing it. Maybe everything's just fine and he just doesn't want to be in training camp and it's way of taking off training camp. I mean, that could be it too, I guess. But it does feel like, Josie says, great film analysis, B. Thank you, Joe. Got a couple other plays we'll show here before we leave. I got one other little thing I wanted to show you guys to get you kind of hyped up. Something that I know is going to translate in here to the regular season too. So this is Stafford already regressing last season, 20 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, really bad. He had a lot of those turnover-worthy plays, which we know there can be a little bit of a regression to the mean on those, where if you throw a lot of those in a given year and that you're trying to fit too many throws into too many tight windows, that comes back and bites you sooner than later. I will say a little bit of last year was the dealing of the injuries at the wide receiver position for a lot of the year. Remember, they didn't have any of Higbee there for most of the season. Cooper Kupp was out for a good part of the year. Puka Nacua was out for a good part of the year. They didn't have a lot as much at the receiver position, so he was kind of thrown to just some guys, Jordan winning him and whatnot. But I don't think he's prime Stafford anymore, to your point. He's not running at 97% of what he used to be. He's definitely probably down into more of that 91-ish% range. Thrill House, I don't think K9 gets any more rip from all his time off. Dude needs to get a contract. He does. He's going to be playing for one this year, I think. So that's spent Saturday playing Battlefield. I was thinking about getting about Shadowbot, but everything I was hearing was about how there were small maps and they're trying to kind of like Call of Duty it. And the big maps will be there on the release date. I'm looking forward to that. I'll probably get it because the big maps will be a lot of fun, I think. But those short, small maps, I'm not too sure about those. I'm on the line. I'm on the fence on that one. I want the big maps. Thomas says, many teams that won by a lot and still didn't make the playoffs. I'm hoping for consistency. Statement wins is nice. Improvement is better. Yeah. Just the model of what you're trying to build, the consistency in running the ball, efficient in passing, dominant defense, good special teams. That is our recipe for success. The night had his circumcision. That would be funny. Okay, you talking about Zabel and son, they'll take the baby. You take it, baby. We'll have that's a great suggestion. We'll have Walker do the come on man next week. Come on, Tyron Baldwin. Better effort now. What was that? You patty cake. Well, I patty cake. Baker's man, you're off the team. Suck it. Haynes in a fourth for Hendrickson. Yeah, that'd be good if you could pull that. So the segment is basically name and shame. It is Jay Malfour this week. I'm shaming you. I have a lot of patience on a football field, but the soft receiver that doesn't want to get physical. I've talked to so many former defensive players that talk about receivers and their mentality at times versus other just football players on the field and the way they have got to go about how they go about. And they're not shy about talking their trash about these guys. And it's because of plays, I'm sure, like that, where the rest of the team's watching on film and they're like, I got to bang heads with a guy 35 times over this game, and you can't push a guy out of bounds. That's too much for you? You worried about your manicure? Jay Melfair, if we get Hendrickson for Haynes in the fourth, I will say I got no problem writing that contract at that point. No problem. We answer all questions here, Jim Melfair, rhetorical or otherwise. Realize Hawksnest is Woolen going to want Sauce Gardner money? What do you think that will happen with him? Yes, I do. I mean, he posted the day that Gardner signed his contract. Woolen basically posted eye emojis to let everybody know he'd watched it. He talked about it on Sherman's podcast the other day about seeing the contracts out there and trying not to think about it and want to be paid. You know, he wants to be paid right now. He does. And yes, he thinks he should get every bit of what Gardner's gotten, if not more. That's that thing I talk about where giving Woolen the money right now doesn't really add you any benefit. It's not, he goes out there and gets you 6 or 7 interceptions this year. I don't think the cost is going to increase that much more than what he's going to want right now. So therefore, why not wait? Can we get Lucas on a 2-year, $18 million deal? Yeah, something like that. I was thinking 330, but you're in the same place I am. You know, he's kind of on like about right around 10 million a year on a shorter term deal. But you're essentially, if you get top 10 level play, you know, you're getting him for more than half the price at that point long term on a deal like that if it's a couple of years. Smiggle says one blindside shot ought to do it for Stafford. I'm not going to say you're asking your defensive players to aim for his back, but you're going to ask the players to aim for his back. It ain't a penalty when you hit him there. Hankins is not even practicing, Smiggle. No. Melfair, we have the antidote. We'll be putting the oots and boots to them. I love it, man. Let's go. Oots. Let's go. Oots. Come on. Brian White says, seems like Bradford's the starter. Is Haynes up for trade? I don't think the team would trade him necessarily. The question really is driven by how much they like Cable do, really. Because the thing with this is that we had hoped maybe Salatoa Lamea could come forward as a pass blocker here. He really hasn't in preseason. The guy can run block, but he is really a struggle as a pass protector. And if that guy was pushing Bradford, I might be a little bit more in the lane of saying that that's a possibility. But no, I think he probably remains on the roster. Part of it too, Ryan, is just you're not going to get any value back for Haynes at this point. I don't think he pulls you back much in return. You're kind of just giving him away at that point. No news on the Knight situation yet, Addicted. None that I've seen. Nothing I've seen on that side yet. Wu-Tang says Stafford's one bad hit away from retirement. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And yeah, King Bomber, it's been very frustrating not being Stafford as a Ram. It was a great trade for them. And one of those places I got wrong in that I didn't have the vision to see what Stafford would do with McVay like I probably should have. But those guys have been kind of a match made in heaven. And it sucks. Jeffrey, a Thistle, thank you for the $10 donation, Jeffrey. Massive improvement in the offensive line performance, and lo and behold, the offense looked functional for the first time since the Super Bowl years. We've been pounding the table for this for years. Rejoice! Rejoice, brother. Rejoice. And this is why we pounded that table so hard. This is why we got caught up on these certain elements that would be missing from your offense for so many years. And I believe Carroll has a chance to be able to grow himself in the stop the Raiders. And I believe Coach Carroll has a lot of elements that are still very good as a coach, motivationally wise, and creating that right locker room environment for a winner. But the places for him that were problematic grew with time. And the offense, especially in the way he wanted to attack offensively, much like his defense became outdated. You cannot be 32nd in the NFL and aspire to be that every single year at attacking the middle of the football field between the numbers. You can't be that team. You got to attack the whole field. The defense will take away what you want to do if you're going to be that simplistic in your approach. You got to run to the edges as an offense. You can't just attack the A and the B gap all day long on power runs and think that that's going to get the job done, or the defenses aren't going to be able to compact and take those away. And that's where a lot of the offense was in prior years. Those two combinations especially. We don't target the middle of the field in the passing game, and we don't run to the edges in the running game. You boxed your offenses in and how they could perform and what they could do. And now what you have with this offense is we're going to embrace not only trying to get all 100 yards up and down the field, but we're going to make you defend the width of the field as well. We're bringing that into play too. It isn't just going from point A to point B. It's sometimes, we are going to go east and west to get north and south, especially if we can exploit a defense and a hole in defense in that particular place. So you're right. We have in this community been banging for these exact changes because we all, to a man, to a woman, believe that if we saw these changes, you would see instantaneous returns from it because you could see how those old things so thoroughly held back the old offenses. It sort of was straightforward as to why it was. I tell a defense, you got all these rooms you've got to defend, but we're going to close and lock this room and we're going to close and lock that room. So now you only have to defend these rooms. Your job's easier. You're going to do a better job of defending those rooms because you got less work on your plate to do it. And everything gets just that compacted. Everything gets suffocating at that point. And this offense is not going to allow for that. You saw in this game alone, you started out with inside runs with Charbonnet, a lot of the A and B gap. You got to the stretch plays. Then by like the third, the fourth drive, you're running like 3 pitch plays in a row back to back. I mean, there was one point Kubiak was so confident in what he was doing. He's like, just run it again. That was good. Do it again. I don't care if they know. Just throw it again. Just see what happens. And you get 4 or 5, 6 more yards. That's because he had them on their feet, on their heels at that point of, is it coming power? Is it going to be stretched to the edge? Are they going to just go pitch? Are they going to go off the play action back the other way? You got them all on their heels, man. You just do, and you could just feel it in both of these two games. You got the defense on its heels. Every snap before the snap, they're just kind of... And every snap in the prior couple of years, what you'd see from defenders is this. Coming at you. Moving towards where the running play was going. How many often did we see that in prior years? You're watching the linebacker just slow roll. And this is before the snap, just slow rolling his way to where the run playing. By the snap, he's almost to the gap. Not anymore, Jeffrey. Not anymore, man. Thank you for the $10 donation, though. I appreciate you for that. Very kind of you, brother. Outdoors for Life. Thank you for the $5 donation. I like this Tyler Warren kid for the Colts. Do you see him being this year's Sam Laporta or Bowers? Or do you think that the quarterback play will kneecap him? Yeah. At this point with Anthony Richardson, I think the kid needs I think with Anthony Richardson, he just needs a couple of years off. He needs the Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. Give him a couple of years to just sit and learn and reset this thing a little bit. But Daniel Jones is the guy I think that's going to end up playing the majority of the game for the Colts anyway. But we're back to the same place with Daniel Jones that we would be with anybody else, being that Daniel's not going to get the most out of him either. I love Tyler Warren. I don't think that I ended up giving him, did I? Maybe I did. I can't remember if I gave him the blue chip grade or not. I don't think I did when it was all said and done. I did like the kid a lot. He does bring a full skill set to play, and that he can block, and that he can, a great pass catcher. You can play him at some tight end. You can give him direct snaps. I don't think that he's Bowers. Bowers has just got more, to me, pure body control, ability to extend, a guy that really brings receiving skills to the tight end position almost purely. Warren's got some elements of that, but he's more of a little bit of just your, rugged, cut a little bit more from a Gronk-like cloth in how he goes about playing, where there's a little bit of some shake there, but there's some stiff hips there too, a little bit upright there too, and he's not going to be Gronkowski, but it's just that he's more in that alignment to that. Whereas, Bowers and even Laporta, I would say, is a bit like this too, where they're more of kind of your route runners and guys that really can catch the ball out away from their body, can really extend their catch radius really wide. Warren can do a little bit of that, but he's just not quite to where they are with that. Especially I think the route running is a little better with those, or at least with Bowers. He's probably on point with Laporta on the route running. They're both, similar. Laporta's lesser than Bowers. So, but, somewhere between those two players is probably where he lands as a player outdoor. Not quite to Bowers' upside, but probably overall a little bit better than Laporta. This year, though, long term, I know he'll be a good player, but this year with Daniel Jones throwing him the ball, I will say I think the Colts are going to be behind in a lot of games. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot, so he should get a lot of productivity on the back of that. And again, with him, he's going to get a lot of if you're looking at him for fantasy, that's a guy that's going to get a lot of manufactured touches, because they will just probably give him some fly sweeps and maybe some direct snaps in the backfield from time to time just to see if he can do it too. What do you have? Freaking like 30, 50 attempts last year with the Penn State from the backfield. Maybe it's 30, something like that. But he had a good number of runs, direct snaps, wildcat formation kind of stuff. It was wild. It's wild stuff. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for another $5 donation, Jeffrey. I appreciate you for that. Says, I'm confused. How do the Bungles plan to defend against anyone without their only good defender? Fifth, and send your welcome, a 5th round pick, and send a you're welcome card for cleaning their books, bums. Bums is right. Bungles is right. This organization earns these nicknames because what they do is dumb, and because what they're doing is stuff that other NFL franchises wouldn't do. I put Joe Burrow, I put the elements of what the Bengals have with Burrow there and the receivers they have, Hendrickson there, and where the organization's at. You don't see them kind of like, we don't want to pay Jamar, we don't really want to pay T, we don't really want to pay Terry Hendrickson, and but then it comes down to why they did this. Has nothing to do with a plan and approach and foresight. The reason they've done all of this stuff with signing Jamar and then signing T. Higgins is because they don't want to lose Burrow. They don't want a Carson Palmer situation to play out again like it once did. So they're driven by the desperation of the thought that they've got Joe already talking to the media prior year going, you better sign these guys. I know what they're doing here. They better get this done. And the Bengals facing the reality of maybe losing Burrow and then losing Jamar, and then you're starting completely square one, or we overextend ourselves as far as we can possibly take it to just to maybe keep Burrow happy enough with where things are at that he at least keeps his guys offensively, and then we can at least keep him in-house until we can figure things out defensively a couple years down the line. And that's where the Bengals probably look at it from, was not a, hey, we're in the pocket of the window right now. We're in Burrow's prime. Let's take advantage of this. I think it's more of, we'll get them all onto a super everybody's happy and they all are well paid, and we just keep them in that place of things, and then we'll get this other thing figured out a couple years down the line defensively because we draft and develop well, and we'll find something with that. But it all just comes back to that you knew you were heading down the plank of losing Joe Burrow. And so you've taken steps, every other step you've taken out of that, from signing Jamar to T. Higgins as well. And every approach you've taken with it has been, to me, back to trying to make sure you can keep him and retain him and hold on to him, and that moment doesn't come where he's like, I want out. Great irony be that not having a defense, making him have to throw a trillion times, making him get the ever-living crap beat out of him another year because you got to throw all the time because you're behind in football games a lot, probably is only going to lead him in the direction, Jeffrey, of then getting around to probably asking to leave town. Wouldn't surprise me in the least if he went through that year this year and he was like, yep, I'm done. I'm good. I've had enough of that. 5 years is enough. 6 years is enough. I'm done. Brandon Poyer, thank you for the $2 donation. Drew Lock and, Saints trade for Drew Lock. Sorry, you had put, thank you for the double donation to clarify. He says Saints trade for Drew Lock and we play him week 3. What would be the odds? Pretty low to me. I know that Tyler Shock hasn't had a very good training camp out there with the Saints, and that's a 26-year-old rookie quarterback who needed to be good early on if he was going to be good. Like, this isn't the guy that you're going, well, we'll wait till he's 30. I'm sure he'll be fine by the time he gets there. So there is a little bit of that thing with the Saints where you go, yeah, there's an opening here, and Radler's not been tremendous either. But the Saints, to me, Brandon, feel like a team that's in a sort of tank mode, even though they're not openly tanking and they're still kind of quasi contending. They've got a new coach that they just brought in, and you have Carr just retired on you. You've got a couple of quarterbacks that you know aren't going to get the job done. If you bring Drew Lock in from a Saints standpoint, I think this is the part that I would say from Mickey Loomis's part, he'd look at this like this. If we stand pat and we rock with Tyler Shock and Spencer Rattler this year, we're going to win 3 games. If we go out there and we get Drew Lock, what's the best case scenario? We double our win total. So instead of winning 3 games, we win 6 games, which is just enough wins to then take us out of the long-term quarterback sweepstakes. As opposed to if you've got 3 wins, you're going to get your pick of, if Arch comes out, of course, one of Arch, Lesoris, maybe Lesoris Lenoris Sellers, Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik. I think, at least in the case of Cade Klubnik and Aller, those guys are coming out. They're going to be top 5 picks. So I think that in the Saints' case on this, I think that there's a little bit of a look of this of like, we're going to roll with what we got. And we're okay if we do suck this year, because then we can get through a 3-win season, and then you can finally quantitatively come back to the fans and be like, okay, we're going to finally own it this year with the salary cap. Okay, we're going to finally take the pain with that. Okay, we're going to go finally target the quarterback in the future now in this upcoming draft. Especially if they get in that position where Arch is in a position to come out and, it's the Saints with the number 1 overall pick. And maybe Arch is like, oh, no, I'm not coming out, but then maybe I will come out if there is that team that makes just a ton of sense for me to go to, especially with his grandfather's connection to the New Orleans and all that. So I could see where you're going with it, but I'd really take it down to like a 3% chance of happening, because I think that the Saints have kind of understood that this is where this is at. And we're just going to have to kind of own this at this point, especially with Tyler Shock not looking good. I think if Tyler looked good, they might feel a little bit, but they know Rattler's not taking him anywhere, and Tyler doesn't look like he's ready to go. So I understand. Makes sense. I completely see where you can make sense on it, but I just think that they're They know that you're not going to get Drew Lock in there and he's taking you into a playoff experience, bringing him in at the 11th hour of training camp, not knowing the playbook. You're not. I don't think he's got any familiarity with Moore's system there. I think they're just going to kind of stand pat there on that one. You think they should have this offseason, Brandon? Your point of your question, they should have back in May done more to reinforce that position outside of Rattler and Shock. But it's kind of like they were just hoping one of the two youngsters would come forward this year for them. One of the two would have the light come on. It's not happening. Lori Go Hawks says, please beat the Niners. I'll be at the game ready to see it happen. Come on, 12s, fill the stands and cause another earthquake. It's been a long time. Well said, Lori. Well said. And I'm glad to hear you'll be in the house because I know you'll be loud. And that's what we're looking for again this year, maybe a little bit of a reinvention of Lumen Field. The team has taken steps to try to remove some of the opposition from the house. But we need to remember as well when we walk in that building what time it is. We need to remember the lineage that we carry with us through these generations now. This is an expansion franchise. This thing has been around for 50 years, and multiple generations walk into that stadium, walked into the Kingdome, and they said, we're going to give this everything we got today as far as our vocal cords are concerned, because we realize and recognize, unlike many fans in this country, because we're a little bit smarter up here in the Pacific Northwest, that our voices in unison can affect this football game. We can actually tangibly help our team win games. But we all got to be loud. We all got to be loud together. We got to be loud on the third downs. And so I hope so as well. Lori, I got a hell of a bet going for week 1 with Jesse from Last Second Sports. So I've got even more reason than ever to want to see this be a win. But hopefully they pull it off. And let's get another earthquake going. That sounds good to me too. I could definitely go for that. Thomas says the fact the national media believes Seattle won't win more than 4 games. The KC game definitely showed a better team, and that's without Williams, Lawrence, Jaron Reed. Amen, brother. Amen. I feel the same way. There's just no way. We're not going 4 wins. Paul says if the O-line develops, we have a chance. Plus, we'll be ready for a quarterback to be successful. Amen, man. That line can come together. It's one of the big keys here, that's for sure. Moonman says, what's with the copium they're huffing in LA with Matt Stafford? I don't know, Moonman. Me and Jesse both pressed Jake because Jake on our NFC West roundtable, the Rams content creator that covers the team there, he's so very confident in the whole situation. He's not blinked. He's not been nervous in the least. He's not just worried at all. And both me and Jesse are like, dude, you're not epidermal. You're not, there's no concern? No concern. I'm good. And he's really in that place. So I don't know. He just knows that this whole thing is not anything and it's just a whatever, but and all the rest of us know with backs, it's like, and the hour is growing late here. We're not at the start of training camp. Now we're through the end of training camp. There's 1 game left and you're just getting him out there to start to practice. And I know these old guys don't need practice and they've been through all the training camps, but I think it kind of still does matter. I think losing out the repetitions of all those days of practice does also present some problems. I felt this way last year at the Niners when they had Brandon Ayuk and even a guy like Trent Williams, who Trent said last year, yeah, my holdout and didn't have me at my best. I didn't play my best last year because I didn't have training camp. And Brandon Ayuk, the knee situation and not practicing as well, you do wonder, did that contribute? Smiggle's got 45 catches this year for Hoots. Oh my goodness. Ola Greasy B, you broke my podcast cherry. Can't believe it's almost 4 years now. Thanks for the content, brother. Well, thank you for watching, bro. I appreciate you as well for that long time watching, man, and glad to break your cherry on that. Happy to do so. Happy to do so. I mean, that's what I do here. I just pop cherries all day. Thomas says, well, Jake still thinks the Rams have the best secondary and Stafford will be MVP candidate if you ask him. That is true. He is very positive on the team. Edris says, I thought Coach McDonald said the defensive coordinator was going to call the preseason. I think it goes back and forth a little bit on how they do that. At least in what I've heard Mike talk about it, is that there's a bit of a back and forth. I think he leans a little more on having him do it more often than he will maybe in the regular season, being dirty. But I think they share it. Or no, King says he did say that. So you are right on that then. I missed that quote from McDonald. Joe, I hope Milroe plays a lot versus Green Bay. I mean, quite frankly, if you just want to start him in the game and have him play the whole 4 quarters, I wouldn't hate it. I would like to have gotten him a little more preseason action where we're at so far here. King says, unless someone's going to give us a 4th round pick for Locke, I'm keeping him. I with you. The 4th round pick would make you think. Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's at just a high enough spot where you're like, I wouldn't look to trade Locke. I'm just saying if somebody does throw you kind of an offer like that, it's like 4th? Joe says Warren could be another Kittle. I like that comparison too. Yeah, there's a little bit there with that. That's a little bit more on the button there with it. Thomas says, I will say now, Burrow will ask to be traded by 2027. He'll get fed up with how cheap the Bengals are. I think it eventually is going to wear you out. And even if he's right now at a point of like, you brought my receivers back this offseason, how can he not be a little bit frustrated by how it's gone there? We're a team hoping to be a Super Bowl contender. We're a team hoping to be locked in. We're a team hoping to, get this thing to roll. And, meanwhile, you force, talent players like Jermaine Pratt out of town. You've seen Jesse Bates not re-signed to go to the Falcons. They've lost their share of talent there on that defensive side of the ball since the Super Bowl here and there. And then you've got the whole just complete joke of a situation with Shamar Stewart, your 1st round pick, which is absolutely going to end up affecting his productivity in his first year. And then the Trey Hendrickson thing. I mean, it eventually is a player you would. It's hard enough to win in this sport if you're doing everything right and smart and spending all the money. When you're doing things openly dumb and then you won't spend money, probably makes it feel like a mission impossible. C-Lord says, I'm not going to say I'm worried about Byron Murphy, but I'm waiting for him to show signs he's going to be an impact player this year. I'm with you, man. More of him out of the 3 tech will hopefully be the way that this does show itself. I'm absolutely hopeful of that myself, but he's got to show he's got it in him. Looking at last week's game, he did only play 10 snaps. So he wasn't bad graded on those snaps, 66.7. He rushed the passer well on those snaps. That's where he was best graded out of the game. But hopefully he gets those opportunities. Thomas says it's sad that Milroe looks more efficient compared to the Saints quarterbacks. They look rough. Yeah. I never had faith in Rattler. I always thought he was a guy like the Joe Milton guy, where just people just got caught up on that guy. And man, folks would just keep hyping him to me. And I'm like, I don't see what you guys are seeing on the guy. But yeah, I agree, King Bomber. Saints picking Shock is a generational fumble. I mean, it was such a dumb pick at the time. I like Shock, and there's quarterbacks you like, and you like him in a spot of the draft where I like this guy, but I like picking him here. And you start taking him way up here, and that's where you go, ooh, no, there's a risk to this pick. No, there's age here. No, there's injury history here. That pushes him down. Pick the guys in the right spot in the draft. Don't fall in love with guys like that. It doesn't work out in your favor. You end up coming out the other end of the draft a couple months later, King, to your point on that, going, oh no, it was where the consensus was at on this, And I always keep coming back to at times in NFL drafts that NFL teams like to think they're individually so smart on stuff, but you've got to always keep a little bit of the consensus aspect in mind on things. Where's the consensus? Where is the mighty brain trust of the totality behind this in their outlook of this player in this draft, where this player should go in this draft? And if you get lost in that, you can start to think your stuff don't stink a little bit organizationally, that you're somehow seeing something so brilliantly that others aren't seeing. And with Shock, he was a very straightforward, honestly, kind of evaluation. Yeah, arm talent's as good as you maybe will find in this draft just about, but older prospect, injury history, not a lot of production coming out of college. And that's a lot of risk. That's a lot of lack of production to be grabbing up as high as they took him in the draft. Rodney Prescio, Brando, after you have seen how this team has been playing, what's your overall record for the Hawks? I still stand at the prediction I stood at when the schedule came out. I was anticipating some things were going to take a step forward this year. I loved how easy the schedule looked on the surface of things. And both of those two things I thought initially, Rodney, have only been more further reinforced here as we gain ourselves closer to the season. The schedule looks even easier now than it did when it first came out. And I think that the signs of this team coming together, especially offensively under this new offensive coordinator, and that the returns of that happening quick, we're seeing a lot of evidence for that. Those two things to me only reinforce in the 11 wins for me. I'm still going to say at 11 wins because I think you still do have some growing pains in there. You know, it's a team with potential of getting to 13 wins even, but I think that there is going to be those game or two in there where you still are feeling a little bit of the inconsistency offensively with the new coordinator, you know, where just things aren't quite able to go together with a new quarterback on a given game, where it's just a day where Sam comes out and he's just a little bit cold. But 11 wins is where I do stand, and I think the team makes the playoffs. But I think they certainly could get up into even 13. I certainly do. Yeah, no, I can't do a draft lottery either. No draft lotteries. That would be horrible. Sealords' national media talking heads are already rethinking their Seahawks narratives after our display against the Chiefs. Well, they know if you're a bad team, you don't usually put it on a team like the Chiefs like that in that manner. Not like that. So it's definitely going to open some eyes. And I think people are going to start to realize really quickly their outlook of this team was completely wrong and very paper thin in how they evaluated it. Bulbasaurus Hawks Nest, any concern about Emawari growing pains? On our first drive, it looked like he and Woolen were confused on who was supposed to be where. Gave up an easy completion for 15 yards. I do think there's going to be growing pains, Bulbasaurus, and there's going to be those moments with him where, you know, indeed he's going to look bad. He's going to have a blown coverage, not be on the right assignment. Within this defense that can be complex, there's more of an opening for those kind of mental errors to come up. I think, though, that it's the price of doing business when it comes to Emawari, that the reason that you have this team willing to suffer those growing pains is the difference-making elements that will come into play immediately with him. And then you see this guy with multiple interceptions in training camp, and he's making those picks legitimately. And then you go, okay, well, play here, play there. He gives up, but he might end up at the end of the year with 4 or 5 interceptions and be a monster in the run game overall and what he brings. I think this will be a place that I really do trust in the coach's outlook of this, because they're not driving to Emawari because you're in a desperate state to get him on the field. You could easily have Witherspoon aligned from the slot, have a Josh Jobe, or even a Shaquille Griffin out there as your other starter on the outside, and the defense is going to be perfectly fine if that was the case. But you go to this place because of just how good he's been, how good he's looked, how ready he seems to be to go take advantage of this opportunity. So the growing pains will be there, but because the coaching staff has that great refuge they could go to if it was really rough with the good moments, Bulbasaurus, you know, like every time you get an interception, you're coming back and there's 2 or 3 plays where it's just crap city. I don't think that they would be moving as much towards him being that starter like I think he's going to be. I think it's just that he's been that good in practice, and it matched to my eyes in person and what I saw from him, Bulbasaurus. He was all over the football field. You felt his presence out there. It wasn't just like a rookie learning the ropes. It was like, oh, geez, oh, there he is again. Oh, and now they got him rushing off the edge. So some evaluators try to stick to their Geno and DK takes. Oh, they'll hold on to it for dear life. You better believe that. Team Bomber, seeing the Niner corner who's been talking trash the entire offseason get trucked by Genty was great. I just want to see Walker flip him again. Just want to see Walker take him and just throw him over his shoulder again. That was one of my favorite moments from last year. That guy talks way too much for being kind of a mid player. See, Lord, the Bradford redemption arc could be one for the ages if the guy pulls it off. Boy, could it ever. And like we always remember with him, the talent is there with this kid. And how everybody talks about him, see, Lord, and I've heard 4 guys, coaches and players this offseason just talking about he's got the goods. It's just, does he want it? And that gets you excited because, you know, a lot of times the guys in wanting it, not wanting it, realizing the opportunity at play, you want that to be something that they get right from the first point of their NFL career. But we do forget about these guys being kids. We do forget about them just coming in so young And not everybody's got their head on their shoulders in the right way at that age. And sometimes it takes you a couple of years for it to go, oh, what an opportunity I've got here. I got to take advantage of this. This is fleeting. Sometimes it's hard to see when you're young and you think you're going to live forever and the opportunities will be endless. Jay Melfair says, example of taking players in the right place. Milroe was a terrible first-round pick, but it's a great third-round pick. Exactly. There's a math here, right, involved Melfair, where it's not, I can't break it all down into necessarily an exact formula, but it just in general terms as you kind of throw it out in some of the grand things on the player that you put into it. Milroe, 2 years starting, got some productivity there that you feel good about, but mechanics have got light years to go to be right for the NFL. Processing has light years to go to get for the NFL. But I have the kitschy play aspect that I could run with him, where I can bring him out there for 5 to 6% of my offensive snaps and have him run RPO action, have him run rollouts over in space, use his legs, and I can get returns from this guy while I'm waiting for that long-term development. So I'm getting some returns. It's like a stock where eventually the stock might give me 8 or 9% returns, but even out the gate, at least I'm getting the 2 to 3%. And maybe the long terms will give me 0. Maybe it flatlines to nothing long term. But even if it goes to 0 long term, initially and through those first couple of years, I should get that little 3% bump, that mutual fund like bump versus a pure stock, which also then now brings his value back up from where, it might have dipped down mechanics, processing, but then it comes a little bit back up knowing you can get some of the instantaneous returns from him. So I agree. It's the same way where that math gets brought into play on it and where it goes, no, this guy goes in the route right here because of this, and this. It's the big picture things on the prospect to me that end up pushing him to where the right place is of the draft. Certain teams will then have some fluctuation of where that particular player should go. But in general consensus terms, here's where this guy aligns. Here's where this guy aligns. Tyler Shock should have been a guy with his alignment, should have been a 4th round guy, 5th round guy. By his background, by his productivity, by the injury history, by the elder age that he was walking in with. But the Saints fell in love. And that's something that can happen at times when you go down the wrong quarterback path, is you just fall in love with a particular guy. And other teams are like, no, we don't see it. I don't see it. This team says, I don't see it. That team says, I don't really see it. And you're like, no, we see it all. Like, do you? Or you may be getting tricked here a little bit. And that pre-draft evaluation process can trick a lot of teams. It just, you get outside the actual games, you need a quarterback, you just start talking yourself into it. HHEB, I know we got Milroe, but if Burrow is there, do we go after him? Yes, we do. And the thing with this is, though, you have 2 different quarterbacks. I'm not looking to usher Sam out. I'm not looking to usher Milroe out. I'm just saying that I think that what the Seahawks have done with the quarterback situation is created some fluidity on how they can attack that position in the future. Specifically to your point, if a guy like Burrow became available, the Bengals are going to look at the roster and say, we still have a really good roster. We got to give this guy up. We don't want to just give up and go back to the dark ages. Well, if you have a quarterback, you can supply them on top of the picks, on top of the player. Maybe you have an inroad to get that deal done in a way other teams can't, who can only offer picks, who can only offer players that aren't quarterbacks. And that's where I could see that kind of maybe going that way eventually. I'm not saying it would happen. I don't think it's necessarily what the Seahawks are like trying to count on. But it is the thing I have thought about if it does break out that way, where something sort of starts to shift. Let's call it shift in the Bengals situation with Burrow there. Yeah, I think it could provide, even without, I think those quarterbacks here can provide actually the assets that could help potentially take a deal over the top, where let's take this down the line and you're a year from now and Burrow becomes available and you got this team saying, we'll give you 3 first-round picks over a 3-year period, and that team saying 3 first-round picks, and then we can say, well, we give you that, but then we can give you a quarterback too, so you're not driven by those picks to have to necessarily go get a quarterback with them or package those picks to go get your next Burrow. You can have your quarterback, and then you can actually build this rest of your team. And if anything with the Bengals right now, you would say with them, more than needing to go get their next quarterback after Burrow at that point, it would be, well, you probably need some parts. You probably need some extra picks for that defense and get that line right for whatever quarterback you want to have in there. You can make a bit of an argument to them on that, I think. Wu-Tang says double-digit wins for this team would be insane. I'm not a Darnold believer, but with what they're building, if Milroe pans out, we're going to be nasty for years. Well said, Wu-Tang. Well said. And Milroe's got a lot of potential in those future years. Nice, like I said, you're getting a little bit of returns off of him out the gate, so you're going to see a little bit of him on the field here and there. I think Darnold's going to surprise a lot of people in the same way Geno surprised a lot of people when he started. I see history repeating itself. Time is a flat circle. And I think Darnold's going to do a lot of the same stuff Geno did. And he's going to, if not blow people away, he's going to impress a lot of people with his play this year. Dogzilla says, they say Hankins slipped on a Bahana Peely. You got some good ones today, Dogzilla. I gotta give you credit, man. You're coming in with some heat today. I like these. Hankins slipped on a Bahana Peely. All right. That was good. That's some wordplay right there. King says, I think the floor after this last game is 9 and the ceiling is 14 for me. Let's go, King. Let's go, buddy. I'm with it. I am with it.
It's hot and sweaty and stanky.
14 wins. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? Bubble Stores, Hawks Nest, do you think that if Jay Harbaugh gives another below average season, he will be let go? Or do you think the Hawks think he has too much upside due to his lineage? Hard to say on that one a little bit. I don't think that he necessarily had earned an NFL job as a special teams coach at Michigan and that he had done such a great job at Michigan to earn it. I don't want to throw around the word Nepo because it gets tossed around a lot, and it's not necessarily fair because a lot of NFL coaching is coming through the lineage. I mean, Clint Kubiak would essentially be like a Nep, but he's earned the job. He's put in the work too, and Jay's done a lot of the dirty work too to get there. I think Jay is kind of an important part of the staff, the way Mike McDonald talks about him. And like they had him doing some extra work this offseason. Mike talked about that Jay was doing some research for them on a particular thing. Mike seems to be very high on him. I think that if you have 2 years back to back like this of going in the same direction like they did last year, and we're already getting a little bit of a sense for here to start this off, I think as a head coach in Mike McDonald's case, you have to move on after 2 years at that point. Because this isn't a situation where he's just got upside. This is a situation where with this new rule change, this is going to expose a lot of special teams coaches in this league. And those that can't be innovators are not going to last. If you're just leaning on the old rule of thumb, if you're leaning on the old ways, well, this didn't work. And the old ways has A, B, C, D, E, F that we can try. And so let's go down the letters to see which one of these will be a solution. But now the new ways are, there is no A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're creating new A, B, C, D, E, F, Gs as far as plans of approach to defend kickoffs, let's say. And now you've got to figure it wholly out on your own. And some coaches are able to do that, some aren't. It's a new landscape special teams wise. And I think Mike's got to recognize that a little bit. It would be brutal this year if we see our offense really rolling this year and we got our defense dominant and then somehow our special teams ends up messing it up. Having a couple of those games where they end up being the thing that ends up, costing you 2-3 games over the course of the season, costing you like a home field advantage kind of run you could have, or costing you a chance to get in the playoffs. You guys all remember the story from a couple of years ago with that Chargers team that was number 1 offensively, number 1 defensively, but their special teams unit caused them to miss the playoffs, I believe, that year. That's why I do think the worry and the concern on this is valid and something to kind of pay attention to. King says the ease of the schedule pushes me to 9. I get it, King. I'm not that far off your floor. I think 8's my floor, but I'm right there with you on it. The schedule is very easy. And there's some elements within this easier schedule that have also been a little bit made more the easier when you look at them here in retrospect. Like, for instance, this Niner game. You look at this Niner game in May and you go, all right, we got maybe Ayuk. We're going to have Juwan Jennings out there. They get Pearsall back. You have Kittle. You have McCaffrey. Okay, well, you're down Ayuk now. Ayuk's not out there. Juwan Jennings, is he going to be able to play by week 1? Is he going to be at his best for week 1? Is he going to play a full allotment of snaps for week 1? Meaning he hasn't practiced. That's just one positional group. Say nothing of, their off-ball linebacker opposite Fred Warner and D. Winters. The youthful defensive line. Malik Mustafa, still getting over that injury from last year. Starting safety, also not going to be playing in the game. It's set up nice, man. It's set up really, 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 really nice. All right. Well, we are going to start to wrap this one up as I've got a show here at about 6 o'clock. I wanted to show I want to show, and just kind of to finish this up, this kind of separate of the segments we were running earlier today, but another place that I think that you can have a lot of confidence in Kubiak in this upcoming year, to where we've got elements of this offense we're not sure about. We're wondering if they're going to come together. Can the running game be this good, get to the regular season? Can that work as well to this? There are some parts within this offense that are going to work coming to the regular season that inherently work because of the dedication to running the football. And they are so beneficial to not only the offense as a whole and keeping the chains moving, but keeping the quarterbacks in a state of in rhythm, on time, and giving them easier throws. I talked in the telecast that I've heard oftentimes a lot of NFL coaches talk about what makes a good offensive coordinator and what are the individual things you look at that allow for that. A modernized approach, cutting edge approach, right? Detail-driven nature of things, all that stuff. But there's another part of this of when it comes to your quarterback and your OC, how many easy throws can you give your quarterback over the course of the game? If I got to have you throw 25, 30, 33 times, how many of those throws can I make to where you're hitting that back foot and you're able to find a guy and disperse that ball out there easy and freely without it being a tight window, without you being under duress, that you just get to get the ball out smooth and fast? Can I create those moments? Hard to do as an OC. And what we got to see this last week a couple of different times, and what you've gotten to see from Kubiak here already out the gate, what he showed last year with the Saints in addition to that, is an ability to create a lot of those easy sort of plays. So we're going to finish this up today with 4 of these throws I want to show you, and these aren't fancy throws. These aren't fancy plays, but these are plays to show you how he creates these easy throws within this offense, how he gets these quarterbacks into this rhythm, and why this is going to carry over to the regular season. You better believe it. Right here, you get a condensed formation, multiple tight ends on this play. Everything about this looking like a run. You've been running a ton up into this point. Sam Darnold under center. Play action pass. Play action one way, wide open, over to Oots to the other side on the rollout, going back across his body there. Great play action by Sam. Take a look at the linebackers here. Look at the linebackers. Look at them. Folks, this is a pass play. And all of them just burrow down into the line of scrimmage. Nobody's out there on Oots, wide open. 10, 15-yard play. Easy. Sam comes off this play action, comes back. No problem. I can make that throw all day. That's a completion for 10, 15 yards. How many of these kind of plays can you create? And it's all off that running game because those linebackers have to bite hard down. They can't sit in the pocket. They got to come downhill and meet this running game. And you take advantage off of it with the play action. It all just pairs together so bloody nicely, it does. Wide open. How about another one? Same kind of action. Back under center. Condensed split. All right, you got them condensed split, couple tight ends. I got you nervous. You got that defense nervous for that passing attack. 12 personnel, ran it at an all-time high rate last year in the NFL. 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. Play action, come back the other way, wide open. 8, 9-yard play there. Watch the linebackers again. Not as extreme, but the steps are going towards the line. Towards the line. Towards the line. Those 2 steps are all you need. That's it. You've got right here your tight end. He's already running full speed post snap. So you got one guy running full speed, the opposite direction. You have the linebackers taking the full steps to the line of scrimmage. And that combination creates separation there where there's 6 yards of space between him and anybody else. So much space he can turn upfield and just take his time and go up there and take the 9 yards. Wide open play, never covered. Nobody ever picks this guy up, never covers him. Why? Because the run game's so effectively. Why? Because under center play action works, and it works well. 2 more. Again, same thing. Condensed split, 1 wide receiver. 3 tight end, 13 personnel. Chiefs bring all their guys up around the line of scrimmage here, don't they? 7 guys in the box, got the corner up tight. Play action, back around, wide open. Same play I showed you almost, just a different way you're running it in this one. Hit Horton coming back across the formation. Look at the linemen here. Linemen make this look like a run block all the way. So look to the right side of the offensive line. Everything looks like a run block here. But you're coming back across the formation. Wide open, easy throw for the quarterback. Get him in rhythm. Get him nice in rhythm. Don't make him make a high level throw out the gate. Just get him nice in that. Just here we go. Couple of these throws, and now you're ready to go make that high level throw. Now you're feeling good. Hey, I'm 2 for 2 for 30 yards. Let's let it rip. Let's do a post route, coach. I got it. Last one here. Once again, same story. Tight splits, tight alignment, multiple tight ends. Later on in the game, play action pass, roll out back across the formation. Again, wide open. First down. And again, just key in on those linebackers here. Linebacker 21 comes up here. Look at 21. The safety's coming up here. Completely overruns the play. Completely misreads this. But he's not alone. Your two linebacker, off-ball linebackers do the same thing. 3 guys taking false steps in the wrong direction post-snap. What makes a successful play? I got 3 guys taking a false step post-snap. I'm kind of on the pathway to getting there. It's a good chance I'm going to arrive at my destination. Wide open, make the catch, go get the first down. This is what good offensive coordinators do. Are you going to be able to give them 20 easy throws throughout the course of the game? No. But if I run the ball effectively, if I play dominant defense, if I am a good special teams team, if I can take a good amount of my passing attempts from my quarterback and make those easy throws and make those throws that are likely to be completions and successful plays at that, I reduce down what I'm going to be asking of my quarterback that they've got to do. A lot of times people get so caught up in the component of the quarterback driving everything on NFL teams and rosters because there are those good ones who can kind of do that there are those supermen that are out there, but it doesn't have to be the only way you go. And that there is a formula here to make a great team, not a good team. You can make a great team on the back of putting this mixture together. It's the mixture a Philadelphia Eagles team utilizes in a lot of ways. It's the mixture your Seattle Seahawks team utilized to go to back-to-back Super Bowls. Yeah, Russell Wilson had a time in this sport where he played like a top 3 quarterback in the sport, like a Superman kind of quarterback in the sport for a couple of year period. But that was more 16, 17, 18. That wasn't 2012, 13, 14, where he was a good quarterback. And part of that with Russell and getting him to perform where you did was lowering down the number of times that you had to put him on the spotlight to go out there and be that superhero when he wasn't ready to go and be it. And you're putting the same kind of conditions in place this year right now for what you're going to give Darnold to set him up for success. And it's just part of the reason I believe Sam Darnold is going to find success in this offense and good success at that. You guys let me know, though. You guys are getting more and more of a feeling for this offense being ready to roll, and that you feel like right now Darnold's going to be able to match that kind of year that he had last year with Minnesota, if not statistically speaking, in efficiency speaking and productivity speaking in general terms. Let me know. I do think he will be able to, because I think you have put the right conditions for him to be able to attain that kind of success here. I really do. I think he's going to have a good supporting cast, the commitment to the run, these easy throws out in space. It's all going to blend together well to allow, I think, Sam Darnold to be at his best. I thank you guys for watching today. If you guys could for me, hit that like button. You guys know I do really, really, really appreciate it. Helps out the channel, helps me grow, helps me show. You can join Aldone. Aldone, thank you for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate you joining up 24 minutes ago here on that side of things. I'm going to be back here in about an hour and a half. So we're coming back with Bryce Coots, my man out here at the Hawks Zone. If you're not already, please do get subbed up over there. If you can click on the link in the video, you can also find the link to their channel, but it's the Hawks Zone here on YouTube. He's out there holding it down for a couple of years now over on that side of it. Love their work and what they're doing over there. Had a chance to hang out with him on the berm. We're going to be doing a once-a-month show here with him, Dan Viennes and Mookie Alexander of Field Goals. So we'll be doing that at the end of the month, one show a month to kind of begin things, but we'll be building up from them. We're going to be calling it the Syndicate. It's going to be the name of the show. And so I'm really looking forward to that, but I want to have him on here to talk a little bit about the Jalen Milroe mechanics, the growth of Milroe, the long-term future of Milroe, where he sees that situation as a former quarterback and a guy that trains and teaches these young kids on the football field. I thought his perspective would be very interesting from that standpoint of things. So we will be back in just merely 1 hour and a half. I thank you guys for watching today. I do really appreciate the great discussion as ever, as you guys are always awesome on that side of things. Back soon. But until then, hour and a half, I hope you guys don't forget an hour and a half. Well, we ain't spacing out on our Hawks in that point, but look, the Mariners are doing pretty good, so it might happen. Just in case, don't you ever forget. Don't you do it. We're going to be good this year. We're going to make some noise. We're going to prove all them pundits wrong. All those national analysts looking at this team thinking they're going to be trash. They're going to be dog water. They're going to win 4 games. We're going to be making them look so silly. I'm going to put a montage together of all their dumb offseason takes just because it'll be so much fun and so satisfying when we're turning it up on the other side of that table. You better be locked in. You better be ready, and you better not ever forget. Go Hawks.